Call the meeting to order.
You think that's fair?
Mayor Pro Tem, will you do the honors of leading us
All
in
right,
the pledge?
everybody, ready? Begin.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, call the roll.
Mayor Johnston.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick.
Here.
Councilmember Blatz.
Here.
Councilmember Francina. Here. Councilmember Haney.
Here this time.
Okay, good. We have a quorum. Okay, approval of the agenda. I would like to make an early suggestion so we don't have everybody hanging around and then being disappointed. On the ordinance governing the second residential units, that is a pretty heavy-duty topic that I am going to suggest we open the hearing so we don't have to re-advertise, but continue to our first meeting in July to give us time to study everything we got from the Planning Commission and give the public and other people an opportunity to study it too. We could do that first if we're all in agreement. Then we have our budget adoption hearing, and then I guess everything else kind of in regular order. Is that
I'm okay with that.
any objection to doing it that way? Okay, if not,
Well, before that, do we know it's on the July 7th agenda right now? Do we know how many topics are on it, so
No, it's
we're not
on.
bumping something from it?
Steve, what? It's not the 7th though. It's when?
The 11th, I'm
The
sorry.
11th.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Do we have a full agenda then?
Fairly full. No pun intended.
Yeah, right.
There are a couple things, though, that we could move off that are not critically timely. For example, like we were planning to bring the Surzati Park Master Plan back on the 11th. We could push that back another meeting to make room for the ADU,
And so,
Okay.
if the council
And then we have
desires.
Historic Commission, Preservation Commission recommendations.
Those are scheduled for the last meeting in July due to staff availability. But they are definitely on for the 25th of July.
Okay.
then with that, I have no concern.
Good.
I could go along with that movement.
Okay. Okay. Let's go to public comments. This is the time for things that are not otherwise scheduled to be discussed, that anybody out there like to exercise their First Amendment rights? Oh, pardon me. I jumped over the most important part. Thank you. We have another luminary amongst us, Pat McPherson. Pat.
Thank you. For those that are not familiar with who I am, I'm the chairman of Ojai Flow. And for those who don't know what Ojai Flow is and was about, it's a group of 7 board members. We were the founders of it. Ojai Flow really is the whole community. And the board members are Ryan Blatz, Stan Green, Bob Daddy, Dale Hansen, Richard Hages, and Lou Torres, and Dale, did I say Dale Hansen already? So anyway, so we met for the last 8 years. The first 4 years, we were meeting every week, and that was about 2 hours a week. And I added up all these meetings, and I figured we had over 312 meetings. And those meetings, if you turn it into man hours, it was over 4,000 man hours we put into this effort to buy out the Golden State Water Company. And it wasn't just us. We were just kind of the steering committee and did all of the fact checking and so on. But it was the community as a whole that put this all together. And tonight, I'm going to give a presentation to the city and to each, and it's to all of you. But I also want to give recognition to the council members who were here at the time that we were going through all of this. And one was Carlin Strobel, and actually it was even before she was elected to the council. She was involved. Betsy Clapp, Carol Smith, Severo Lara, and Rob Clark, who was our city manager. All of those people were participants and helped us get through this, whatever you want to call it. And it took
Remarkable achievement.
It really was.
Nobody else has done it.
I know. And you look at a town like Claremont, which has a lot more money than us and a lot more people, and they couldn't pull it off.
Right.
And so I'm really proud for this little community, and kind of as we said to ourselves when we started this, they don't understand who Ojai is.
They don't know who they're dealing with.
No, they don't.
Neither do we. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was,
And just to underscore that, I believe they spent, due to CPUC disclosures, almost $1 million trying to defeat that election effort
yes.
and failed.
Yeah, and they had to eat it. We didn't have to pay for
Right.
it, too, which was great. And one of the things that we did in our Ojai Flow group was not to have a majority rule. It had to be unanimous. Every decision we made had to be unanimous. And our philosophy was this: if we couldn't convince ourselves and everyone in there to buy in to whatever we were going to do, then we had no business trying to convince the community. And I think that was one of the things that made it work. So anyway, that's it. And we have today, we have Lou Torres, one of our board members here. We have Dale.
Hey, Lou.
And so, this is what we are giving you, this. It's a dim quality
I love it.
That's beautiful.
print, and it really is a very nice numbered print one. This is number, what is it? 6 out of 100.
I love it.
So we can give this to the city, and it's a picture of the little munchkins that we were famous for running or carrying out the Golden State truck on a rail.
In front of the Playhouse.
In front of our playhouse.
I love it. Yeah, why don't you let the public, yeah.
Anybody wants these, we still have some available. But anyway, they're just a fun thing that Gail Childress created for us. So I'll give it to our mayor. How's that?
Here, you want me to
Yeah.
come around so you can
Yeah,
get
why
a-
don't you come around?
You gotta stand for this. This is history.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, one more. Perfect.
Got it?
Got it.
All right.
Put it up on the mantle, Johnny. I don't think we have anything.
Spot in the corner here, Mr. Mayor. There's 2 blueprints on the wall. Okay, we'll move to the back. Good eyesight. Thank you, Pat. And Dale and Lou.
And just, while we're doing it, I'll take the privilege of saying, well, if we have issues now, we just have to go down the road to complain,
Right, exactly.
which is a whole different and better situation.
I'm sure, Pat, too, you guys have been called a lot of things, but to me, you're the Magnificent Seven.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other public communications? Do I have any cards here that I haven't already called on? Oh, Pete, are you out there? Followed by Steve Weed.
Thank you, Mayor and members. Pete LaFalle at 999 East Ojai Avenue. Regarding the envisioning meeting the other night, Sunday night, the Chaparral property, I'd like to speak for many of us that we'd like to see usage along the lines for a new project of low environmental impact, usage that promotes pedestrian-free design, something that's bicycle-friendly. I'd like to see us all on the same page on promoting ecotourism and sustainability. And by the way, as far as safety, we're still waiting for the lighted crosswalk project on Ojai Avenue. That's been a long time coming, and it seems like it's overdue, so we're following that one very closely. So thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Pete. Steve Weed?
Mr. Mayor and council members, first of all, it's good to be here again. It's been a while, and I want to thank every one of you and all the people in the community that have welcomed me back. It's been very nice to be back. So my comments today are not about any issue. This is a challenging time in Ojai in a lot of different respects. And I've been coming to council meetings about 4 years now, and I have seen some real improvement, you know, and I think it's good that the council is starting to, number one, be more responsive. Sunday's meeting, which I somehow blew off, was one example of that, and there are many others. The Ojai Flood Project is one of the best achievements that I can think of, best outcomes that I can think of, and that was in part facilitated by the council contributing public funds to that. So there's a lot of good things that are happening. The last meeting was a meeting that focused a lot on the OTID, and that, again, was one of the most pivotal issues that's come before the council that I can recall in the last 5 years or so. And it's an issue that was fraught with a lot of emotion. Most of the council members expressed some level of concern, not only about the issue, but about the process that took to get there. But I must say, I was actually impressed with how the council dealt with that. Mr. Blatz, Mr. Wyrick both expressed some concerns about the process. Our Mayor Johnson and Councilman Haney really struggled with how to get things said at a particular point in time. But, you know, I've seen meetings that have been a lot worse on issues like that. But having said that, my professional training is in not only facilitation, but also in working with groups that lead organizations. And to Mayor Johnson's credit, I understand that 3 or 4 months ago, he decided to call a process meeting that was open to the public and see if we could deal with some of the challenges that the board has. And I think that's a commendable effort. But anyone who knows process knows that you can't participate in a meeting and lead a meeting. And you know what? Again, I don't always talk about things that I see in council, but I do believe that there's an opportunity to improve how the council works. And whether it's myself or someone else, I would encourage you to get someone who can facilitate a process meeting that's not involved in the process. And it's about not bashing the council, but it's about supporting the people that lead. And that's a real challenge in this community. So thank you for your attention.
Okay. Thank you, Steve.
Stephen.
Okay. I don't have any other cards. Is there anyone out there that I missed that would like to? Oh, yes. Well, you maybe didn't come in with the early mail. Let's see.
All right, good evening. How are you doing? I got some brief notes here. See, July 4th. Yeah, start the clock. Okay, July 4th coming up, and gave me a few thoughts on Ojai. Appreciate Ojai's independence and self-reliance, as was just demonstrated here with flow and in so many other ways now in our history. Ojai has proved to have small-town character, according to the general plan. However, there are threats that I perceive out there on the horizon, and it's not all hunky-dory as most of the press wants us to believe. So I'm concerned about the global and national politics, which will definitely impact Ojai if and if it does, we really need to be self-reliant. I was out at the Ojai Valley News a couple times recently, and business is good, judging by the parking lot, which is overflowing. And I went to the pub and had a couple glasses of water in the heat. So visitors are a blessing for us. However, we can't over-depend on them, as we all know. We have to be self-reliant just in case. I think now's the time to invest in real goods as opposed to unreal goods, like money in some instances. Money is a very iffy thing. It could be here and gone tomorrow. So in the present climate, I'm talking not about Ojai, but about the national and the global thing, it's something to be concerned about. What else? I just want to express that we need to be realistic. At least I do. I don't live in Ojai really, but I come in here very frequently. I need Ojai services like food. Definitely need food. Except I do grow some of my own food, like fruit trees. I believe in fruit trees. Because if worse comes to worse, you always have some water in the fruit, and you also have some things you can live on, actually, for a short period of times in emergency. So I want to thank all of us, really, for standing up and being who we are, which is, I've always been impressed with the general plan that always emphasizes over and over and over, small town character. So if things go south, we'll have another chance to prove our character. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Dennis.
Okay, consent calendar.
Mayor Johnston?
Yes.
I would like to pull items 1G and 1H for further discussion from the consent calendar.
Okay, gonna pull 1G and 1H. Any other requests? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Okay, moved second. Any discussion? Okay, no objection, so ordered. Okay,
Item G. I would like to suggest, and after I finish my remarks, I'll make a motion, that we take no action on this item tonight for the following reasons. It triggered my memory when I saw about spending $15,000 a year for consulting services to meet the reporting requirements of CalCycle, and also talking about 341, 1826, et cetera. Something that our previous city manager told us at the time that we were approving the contract with Harrison. Namely, that considerations for additions to the long-term contract include the following. This is by services that Harrison was providing us at no cost. New regulation compliance reporting, AB 341, AB 32, et cetera. And then when I looked at the franchise agreement, it includes things like on page 31, Article 8 diversion, talking about that the contractor, namely Harrison, will provide through delivery and program or services assurances of meeting various mandated minimum requirements, with including CalCycle, including submitted annually, doing CalCycle reports, and so on and so forth. I would like to say, I think we should defer or not take action on this. It's not especially timely, and I would like to very much find out, A, whether or not there's any duplication of effort, and B, whether it'd be more economical to have Harrison provide these services rather than Solid Waste Solutions Incorporated. And that's going to be my motion, is that we take no action on this item tonight.
okay, we have a motion, we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, any objection? No, so ordered. Okay, you got letter H.
Really quickly. This is something that I've been raising for a number of years, and there is a comment in response to questions that I had that there will be handicap ramps included in the overlay program as part of the compliance requirements. And we do have a piece of our code, namely Public Structures and Complete Streets, that talks specifically and calls out certain guidelines to be used for doing things in the public rights-of-way, and certainly building handicap ramps is something that's included in these guidelines that are not cited in the resolution for, in terms of approval. And I simply think that when we are building handicap ramps, that we should refer to the code section, which I'm going to have in my motion, and that we include things like what are guidelines if there's opportunities for curb extensions and particular types of striping to be in compliance with these guidelines that are in our code, that we construct those in consistency with those guidelines. And so the motion I'm going to provide, suggest for H is as follows. The move to adopt plans and specifications for the road rehabilitation project PW 2701, let me pass this out, and authorize the Public Works Director to call for bids and make modifications to the design in order to facilitate engineering and our economic issues, should any arise, with the additional stipulation that all work should be done in compliance with Municipal Code 10-2.2006, public structures and complete streets, of which I have a copy which I can read out if anyone's interested, and particularly that any and all ADA-compliant corner curb ramp construction be accomplished according to adopted guidelines referenced in 10-2.2006 with respect to curb extensions and striping integrated into corner curb ramp designs.
I'll second.
And I'd like it to discuss. First of all, can we have Greg come up and talk to us about this? And then one of my concerns, Greg, is when we go to design, and I know we do this almost every year, I'm just lost on a handicap curb is a handicap curb. Do the parameters change year in and year? I mean, they're so wide and so deep and are scored on the front end and have to be at a particular grade. Why does that change? And why do we need to redesign every year? If it seems to me if we've got a design and we put it in our books, that we should be able to do these curves anytime we want to do them. That's my concern with it.
I would say roughly that the curb ramps that are 10 to 15 years old are out of compliance. I think
Last year's ramps?
10 to 15
Last year's
years.
ramps are out of compliance?
No, the curb ramps that are 10 to 15 years old, that are very old, would be out of compliance and require replacement. But newer curb ramps would generally not. Although on Caltrans right away, they're extremely tight on it. They've lost $1 billion lawsuit, and they're going a little over the top on it. But for instance, at the post office, you know, when you cross from the theater over to the post office,
Right.
that curb ramp has not been updated for 40 years or so. It's a very steep ramp, and there's all kinds of issues with it that we're working on. And then you might have, on the other extreme, the current standard requires those truncated domes, they call them, that little pattern of bumps, you know, that are out there. So that, sometimes we just add truncated domes to an existing ramp that's all compliant except for that, and it's a relatively inexpensive item in the $500 range.
So I guess my question is, does that have to go to design every year?
We
Or
just,
can't we have a standard and then emulate that standard year in and year out?
yes, and we refer to a Caltrans standard and use that and just choose the type. There's not a
I might
specific
do that.
design for each one.
Pardon me, yes.
Okay. I want to read the part of this code. That's our code, all right? And it refers actually to the Planning Commission, but it nevertheless says that the, in terms of the following resources, I'm going to abbreviate my comments, should guide its design review. And it calls out in our code specifics that are supposed to be consulted for things like right-of-way structures. Like, you know, you can do a handicap ramp as part of a curb extension for traffic calming.
Right.
It's the time to do it, when you're putting in the new handicap ramp. And it calls out the Complete Streets Local Policy Workbook, August 2012, and Complete Streets Best Policy and Implementation Practices, American Planning Association Planning Advisory Service 2010. Those are adopted in our code, unless supplanted by actions of the Planning Commission. And I just think that we should take advantage of the streets program if we are constructing a handicap ramp, that it should be done according to possible traffic calming complete streets principles.
And if I could highlight there that For instance, in Ventura, which is very proactive on these complete street type issues, you will, or any city really, you'll see curb extensions on the primary downtown pedestrian area. For instance, in downtown Ventura, you might see it right downtown on Main Street only. As soon as you get off on Santa Clara, Poli, or Thompson, you won't tend to see them. They do require a custom design. They often have drainage issues involved with them to get the water around the curb and so on. So all these factors make them very subjective where they're put. But most of the time, the additional cost, a design effort is only focused on high pedestrian use areas. You don't tend to use them although we looked at it, in an area like Golden West, which has some wide streets and very wide radius curves, which help cars fly around them quickly. You don't tend to do it there, but it could have improvements. And we had that option in our last paving cycle, and we got competitive quotes for a standard rehab versus a curb extension.
Right.
But you tend to focus anyways. So it becomes subjective, and it's tricky. For instance, if we implement it with this paving project, it would extend out our analysis and design effort and so on.
My point is that I've been kind of beating this drum for over a year now, that this isn't our code. We have adopted these guidelines, and we ought to apply them. Now, I don't mean that means every single corner, but I think there ought to be an acknowledgement that these are adopted guidelines, and we should follow them when they're practical and the opportunity arises. That's my opinion.
And I think is a point I was saying there, for instance, some of these radiuses you'll see, they measure them, very, very rounded corners, very, 20, 30-foot radius corners. Cars can speed around them quickly, move through a stop sign, and it makes it a longer crossing for the pedestrian. So all of these, when we rehab them, we're taking that big, wide radius, 25, 30 foot, whenever they exist, and tightening it up to 5 foot or so, 5 or 10 feet. And that's actually considered a complete street improvement, because now it's safer for that pedestrian as well as the car can't cut the corner.
Again, my point is just to call out the compliance with the guidelines in our code, so that helps you if you're getting, let's say, some people complaining about doing it, that, all right, this is council direction to follow our code.
Got it. Okay.
That's my opinion. That's why I made the motion.
Okay, a question. I mean, this apply, pardon me, go ahead, Paul.
Mr. Grant, is there, you heard the amended motion made by the Mayor Pro Tem. Is that going to create any problems with anything that you can see we're going to be doing if we have to accomplish it according to adopted guidelines in every instance?
Well, may I just clarify? I thought I heard Mayor Pro Tem Myrick say when practical.
Well, what does that mean?
And I'd be happy to amend the motion to include that language, if you want to suggest some.
I think that would, essentially, we're hoping to adopt the plans tonight and put them out to bid immediately.
Well, that's precisely what I'm addressing, because it does not call out these guidelines at all in our plans. And
Right.
I've been asking for that for more than a year now, over 2 budget cycles.
And so I don't want you to think we aren't paying attention to that. We certainly are. And even fully implementing this measure, we wouldn't call out those guidelines. We would implement them, which we are doing. We're tightening up. I can show in the plans and specifications where we've taken radiuses and specified the existing 25, 30 will be tightened to 5 or 10 foot, which is a complete street measure. I can't say we implement any curb extensions, as most of these weren't focused in the downtown areas, like we did some at Bart's Books and so on. Last year, you might recall Bart's and a couple of places we did it. And but we could also implement some of these. We can review more carefully and see if we could put some in. We can do that as an addendum to the bid package, so we could still proceed with the bidding process. And we have about 3 or 4 weeks to do a revision to his design if we chose to put in a subjective curb extension. It's not easy to just.
I know.
Yeah, as you know, we sometimes receive a lot of pushback from certain neighborhoods. Some neighborhoods want them, some don't, and it's hard to define those areas.
Did that answer your question, Paul?
Not really.
Yeah, I was trying to follow it too, because it was my question also.
Mine as well. Yeah, I mean, either we're going to do it or we're not going to do it. I don't see how you can, you could say we're practicable, but who's going to determine that?
The council would have to select who would make that decision, whether that be Mr. Grant or Mr. McClary.
I think that's included in the guidelines, is some.
Depending on the guidelines. I want to add one more point on that.
Discretion?
The code cites 2 sets of guidelines. It also allows the planning commission to adopt different sets of guidelines. I wanted
Yes.
to point out for the public's awareness, in case they haven't picked up on the point, item 6 on tonight's agenda is that local set of guidelines, the Complete Streets Master Plan, which if adopted by this council would supplant those other guidelines that are cited in the code. So bear that in mind as well.
And I'd like
I'm not citing the guidelines, I'm citing the code.
Oh, I know you're citing the
citing the
code.
code.
I just want to make sure people are aware that this ties to the next item, to that later item. And in
think-
particular, that if adopted by the council now, and if the later item is adopted, Mr. Grant would have to ensure that the paving project complies with the Complete Streets Master Plan. Again, if adopted later.
And I think it is true, we're practical, it becomes a subjective item, but we could look at them and try to implement some curb extensions where they don't become heavy on the design side for drainage issues, and where that might be guidance I could appreciate from the council. I mean, if we could do a quick polling of the neighborhood is one approach, or just say we're going to do these, either way, we're going to implement some curb extensions either way.
Who is paying for the curb extensions and replacing these ramps?
It's part of the capital improvement road paving.
So we're the ones that'll be doing it.
Mhm.
Right.
Is it increasing the cost?
Generally, yes.
It would either, or you'd end up doing less work, right? Under
I
the
mean, we
adopted
wouldn't
budget,
do, we wouldn't
right?
do as many locations.
Correct, right.
Just overlay it more traffic calming.
That could be
Right.
an outcome, correct.
Right.
So, and then attaching myself to that conversation is trying to save money. And that's my concern, is the fact that design and engineering, and it just seems like if we've engineered one of these aprons, that we'd have that engineering on hand. You're an engineer by trade, and it just seems like we wouldn't need to spend any money on re-engineering these curbs. Maybe a curb extension, I understand that, but an actual curb, I don't have a sense that we need to do that, whether it's 30 feet wide or 10 feet wide, or, I would think that your expertise lends itself for you to be able to make that decision and to keep these drawings on hand and make them a part of the package. This is the curbs that we want, this is where we want them, and I just see that as saving some type of money.
I think the standard curb, bringing that radius down is a slam dunk. We can use standards and implement easily, we already have. To do the curb extension, really should require a survey to make sure we don't get into design and drainage issues, and also a design, but there might be simpler applications out there that we could do.
Mr. Mayor, I look at this amendment as not a cost savings. I look at it as increasing our cost or reducing the number of locations we're going to do. Because to go completely with these guidelines is going to be considerably more work.
Right.
Now, maybe that's what we want to do. And instead of doing, how many locations are you looking at?
I don't have the exact count, but approximately 20.
Okay, instead of doing 20, maybe we only do 15. But that's what we're looking at if we adopt this.
You do run a risk, you really should do all 20. Department of Justice requires when you do an overlay that the adjacent corners be upgraded to reasonably current code.
It's in our code, and I just think we should implement it, and we want traffic calming, and that's part of, I think, what we should be accomplishing. But that's my opinion, and we ought to just.
Well, Mayor,
Go ahead,
I'm in
go
agreement
ahead.
with your opinion, Bill. Again, I think, and what I'm hearing from Paul is I think that this process just needs to be thought out. So as you come back to us in next year's budget conversation, and in our CIP discussion, that maybe you do point that out, that, we have the ability to do 35 curbs, or we can do 20 with curb extensions or curb calming. I think that's something that you should bring to us, and you should be prepared to have that discussion with us on an annual basis. And for you to do any preparation that you need to do prior to that. If you need to go to a neighborhood and actually walk the block and ask for permission, then do that. If you need to have a public hearing, then do that. But I would think it's your responsibility to come back to us with the areas that you feel that we could do that, the curb extension and curb calming on.
And I should mention the Complete Streets item coming up has a toolbox. So these are tools that can be implemented to calm traffic or improve pedestrian or bike safety and so on. They're all tools that can be implemented in different locations. So that's a tool, a curb extension that can be implemented. And then generally, there's, it's subjective when they're installed. I would say, again, it's highly unusual except for high pedestrian areas, but more progressive communities, for instance, that whole Is it called River Ridge, you know, the one next to in Oxford
Yeah,
there?
collection.
That whole community has traffic circles and curb extensions all through a new planned community. So we certainly could implement them, and I guess, and I appreciate, because I think what Councilman Warwick is really saying is that council wants these things implemented, and we support you doing it. And so, and you're probably aware that 2 years ago, we got roughed up a little bit, and we were put out some demonstration curbs out in Golden West and behind Vaughn's over there in Descanso. The neighborhood, I had some public meetings, and I was a little bit nervous for my life there. It was a little rough, you know. There was like, there was 25 people completely
and also
But
opposed.
if I
maybe
may,
using-
I think that's part of the issue here, is that council has adopted this as policy in our code. And you should, that should be clear, that council has your back because we adopted this. This is in our code. This is what we're doing, traffic calming. So it's not just up to one neighborhood block's decision when it's council direction, as adopted in the code. I think that's important.
Okay, and let me see if I can bring this to a conclusion. Your motion is to simply coordinate existing policies with policies yet to be adopted for the complete streets, to emphasize that it's an important thing to do, and you're willing to accept a modification of the motion with some discretion.
Yes.
And maybe to be brought back even to the council if there's if you want to have it as a collective decision, not putting it all on our Public Works Department. Okay. Can we just have that as a substitute motion, what
Sure.
we have here, plus with some discretion? That doesn't conflict with anything that Complete Streets or you are doing, other than it makes it clear that the council would very much like to see that part of the code enforced? Is that kind of what we're saying?
Yes.
And maybe just add the word "as practical" at the end of the motion.
Sounds good.
Okay, is there any other?
I'll second.
Just one more question. What kind of a cost increase do you think we're looking at?
I would estimate existing ADA ramps, a retrofit, a full rebuild is approximately $4,000. And then the curb extension in a simpler form would be approximately $10,000 to $12,000. If it gets complex with drainage and so on, it can go through the roof, curb,
Okay.
catch basins and all that.
So
can
if
get
you were
very
looking at
expensive.
20, you're looking at $100,000 more?
I would assume practical, we're going to maybe hit.
Add "as practical" here.
Yeah, as practical, I'm kind of my rough expectation, we might be able to do 5 or so, yeah.
Okay, so 4 as opposed to 12, that's still $35,000 more.
Exactly.
Okay, do we have that money available?
I think the existing budget's got, there's certain contingency in there. It's highly variable based on contractors. The bids come in, our estimates are plus or minus 20%. So if we're lucky they come in low, it's no problem. If it's high, we've done it before, we trimmed out streets before.
Well, when it comes back to council for the award of bid, if there was a recommendation to appropriate more funds, that'd be something that the council could consider and approve at that time.
I think there's another way too, is, as a contractor, I bid all the time, and I'm always providing more than one bid for a line item. So in other words, if I'm doing concrete patio, someone may say, what's it going to cost in pavers, what's it going to cost in decomposed granite? And you provide a line item bid for each one of those. So we could ask the same thing.
With and
Give us-
without?
Yeah, give us an allowance for a curb extension on A, B, C, and D. And then that way, that gives you more latitude and council more latitude to choose.
And we can do that, and we did that in the last round, and that's when we found some very competitive pricing on it. The trick is that for a public bidding that doesn't have private bidding, is that you have to set what the price is based on. So the alternates generally are jacked up because they're not considered in the base bid, but we have a way to work in some of that money in the base bid.
Okay, Paul, did you have something more? We're all good? Any more? Okay, roll call?
Mayor Johnston?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
Yes.
Councilmember Haney?
Yes.
Councilmember Francina?
Yes.
Councilmember Blatz?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, we're done with consent agenda. And let's see, our next, okay.
Okay, now,
We've got 2 hearings. I'd like, City Attorney, I want,
Motion to move the,
I was going to check. Matt, is it okay to open the hearing and then
Sure.
continue it?
did
Do
we
we have
approve
to have
the
it?
consent? Oh, yeah, we approved the whole consent.
Yes, you did. I would suggest opening the hearing. If there's anyone here who wishes to speak, and you might take their cards now,
Okay.
or invite them to delay it, and then continue it to the next meeting on July 11th.
Okay, I don't see any cards here.
Oh, there
Okay.
are people that want to speak on the ADUs?
Yeah.
Right, but what we're doing is we're going to continue the matter to our first meeting in July, and, okay.
But again, if someone is here, you have to let them speak.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
But you might point out to them that the matter will be continued, so they may wish to
Okay,
delay
if
it.
they're listening into our conversation, I mean,
Yeah, I
okay.
think we need to make it
The
clear.
public hearing regarding the residential accessory dwelling units is now open. We would like to continue this matter to give everybody plenty of time to understand it and study it to the first meeting in July. So if you're here for that topic, I would encourage you to hold your remarks for the first meeting in July, if you would. So I guess, having said that, is there anyone who wants to come forward? Dale, go ahead.
I was on the committee, but I could not make the committee meeting. I had a training class that couldn't be delayed, and so the committee met without me, and therefore my name is on the list, but I would like you to strike my name, because there are some things, while I agree with some of the things with the ADU comments, there's some I don't. So
Okay.
please remove my name from the list.
Okay, well,
Thanks
thank
very
you for that clarification.
So,
Okay, if there's no one else, we'll,
you know what she's talking about?
what, you want to say something, Susan?
No,
Oh,
I just want to
okay.
make sure everybody knows that you're referring to the letter from the Ojai Valley Board of Realtors,
Okay,
right?
why don't you,
You strike your name, okay.
okay. You want to clarify that for the rest of the audience, Susan, or,
No,
okay,
I just,
okay, we'll remove the thing. Okay, thank you very much. We continue this hearing to,
I just want to make sure that, is there anyone else, I'm sorry, Johnny.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Johnny, but I know that people wait a long time. Is there anybody else that wants to speak on the ADUs, on the accessory dwelling units? And there's okay, there's two people.
right, and they don't want to come in when we're really going to be dealing with it. Is it better tonight? If you, we have one more that would like to speak, okay?
And they don't need to speak the next meeting.
Hello, my name is Vina Lustado, and I wanted to address a meeting that was held with the City Council and actually the Planning Commission last year, and that was in regards to the tiny homes discussion with the Planning Commission, and I believe that was in June 2016, and that was when Dan Fitzpatrick had presented a possible amendment to the second dwelling unit or ADU ordinance, what it's called now, regarding adding tiny homes on wheels under the category of second dwelling units. And so it's been almost a year, if not more than a year, since that was brought up, and it hasn't come back up on the agenda. So I wanted to know if that will be a part of the ADU ordinance, or if I would be able to have access to actually seeing the ADU ordinance, because I don't see it on the website.
And will the staff see to it that
It is on the website. It's accessible in two places. The current ordinance is accessible as part of the Ojai Municipal Code, Title 10, Chapter 2, Article 12, Section 09. That's the current second unit ordinance. And what the mayor is handing you now is the non-conforming second unit / ADU compliance program, which legalizes existing second units. And then what's proposed for consideration that the council has tonight and we'll be looking at on July 11th is available on the website under tonight's agenda item as item 3. It's also available in a perhaps more direct fashion if you contact the Community Development Department. They could connect you directly to it.
So is that the response from the California state law that was recently brought up in November 2016?
Through the chair, yes. This responds to the amendments the state made to Government Code Section 65856 that governs second units, now accessory dwelling units. But to be real clear, there are no provisions regarding tiny houses in the present ordinance. The council can choose to consider that at a future date. Thank you.
And one other comment, I won't be here for July 11th for that meeting. So will there be another round, or is that pending?
well, we don't know if it will be continued. It depends on the amount of testimony.
and on the council's actions.
Yeah.
They may approve it that night. Any commenter could submit a letter.
I would strongly encourage you to submit a letter to Amber, and she'll distribute it to the whole council and city manager.
Okay.
And the city manager reminds me that it's going to be considered by the council in 2 different meetings. July 11th, it would be introduced, and then it would be adopted at a second meeting, although typically adoption is on consent and doesn't entail discussion. So the opportunity for discussion is July 11th.
Okay, and I will submit a letter. And one last item, I apologize. There's recently been an appendix that was a part of the IRC recently, and that's called Appendix RB 168-16 regarding tiny homes. This is not specific to tiny homes on wheels. This is specific to 400 square foot tiny homes on foundation. But it has recently been adopted, actually as of today, in Idaho, the state of Idaho. So it's a really big deal. And this was a huge effort, statewide, nationwide, for it to actually be adopted as part of the IRC. So I just wanted you to take a look at it for consideration, because I think it's a really valid proposition for affordable housing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay. The hearing
you.
is hereby continued to July 11th, and thank everybody. I would like to, with the council's indulgence, make one adjustment in the order here on the agenda and take up item 4, the Renewable Energy and Paris Climate Agreement. We have 2 gentlemen who have traveled to Ojai to share their thoughts with us on the subject. And is there any objection to moving to item number 4?
No objection.
Okay, we'll take up item number 4, and which I'm the one that put it on the agenda, so I'll just read the recommendations. To adopt resolutions which support the Paris Climate Agreement and pledging to continue the city's efforts to reduce greenhouse gases. Also to adopt a resolution to support the city's efforts towards 100% clean renewable energy and reducing greenhouse gases. And my purpose in putting these on, particularly in the Paris Agreement, as I said before the Board of Supervisors, is simply to affirm education, a belief in science, taking responsibility, or first recognizing there is a problem and taking responsibility to do what we can to affect a better outcome. So with that, we have our supervisor with us, Steve Bennett. Steve, you want to speak first or after our honored guest? Okay. We have with us one of the, I don't know if we want to call you, Dick, a pioneer, but certainly one of the people that did the heavy lifting back when air pollution, cleanup was at its most difficult. So Richard Baldwin, you can give us a little bit of your background for the benefit of the audience.
Thank you.
Yeah. Summarize it, because you have a very long background. I'm joking.
All right, good evening. My name is Dick Baldwin. I'm here to support the resolutions for climate change actions to meet the Paris Agreement. I was a Ventura County Air Pollution Control Officer from 1982 to 2002. I've spent over 45 years working on air pollution control, and I spent over 30 years working as a regulator. And then for the past 15 years, I've been doing some consulting work as well. And towards the end of my career here, scientific research on global warming and its resulting change in our planet's climate became a public concern. Reports from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, made up of hundreds of scientists worldwide, put climate change onto the worldwide stage. The studies show that climate change is already causing environmental changes that are beginning to have major economic, health, and social impacts on the world. Okay, and now the test. Hey, it worked. All right, a significant portion of the increase is being caused by human activities that generate greenhouse gases. And the increase began with the start of the Industrial Revolution, as you can see down there, in around 1900. This is not going to work, is it? No.
Well, it doesn't have a laser on it.
Yeah, it does, but it doesn't show.
Wrong color.
Unfortunately, and I'm not supposed to leave the mic. So anyway, if you look at the observed and modeled temperatures, climate temperatures over time, and then you look at the greenhouse gas, the blue line, you can see that the temperature line is going up pretty much with the greenhouse gases. Solar, as you're going to see a little later, oh no, I didn't bring that chart. Solar and ozone and volcanic action is probably the biggest things that are affecting climate change and greenhouse temperature right now. The sources, there we go. The sources are many and diverse. Cars, power plants, heating our homes and making hot water are just a sample of greenhouse gas sources. It's a complex process, but one that is sure. One thing is sure is that climate change is real. Now, this just came out from the California Air Resources Board a few weeks ago. For Ojai and other small cities, the thing to focus on for reducing greenhouse gas emissions is transportation. You don't have too much industrial here. Electricity generation, in-state and imports is important because if you're generating clean electricity here, you're not generating fossil fuel electricity elsewhere. And then there's some residential. It's a small part, but it's an important part. There is hope, and that hope is with the gradual change we're making toward using clean, renewable energy, primarily generated by wind and solar sources, and then using this energy to replace fossil fuel energy. The cost of clean energy is becoming cheaper than fossil fuel electricity, and those costs keep coming down as technology advances. This slide shows that greenhouse gases in California, this is only for California, are going down while our population and our gross domestic product are going up. So a lot of people are worried about population increasing, what's happening with greenhouse gas, but we're actually staying ahead of the curve. And as you can see in California, it doesn't seem to be controlling greenhouse gas emissions does not seem to be affecting dramatically, at least, the gross domestic product. It's still going up. This forecast was prepared for Bloomberg New Energy Finance by 65 professionals over a period of 8 months. Earlier this month, Bloomberg released its energy forecast out to 2040. This slide shows how dramatically and rapidly declining costs of renewable energy are affecting fossil fuel generation. So if you look at the top black line, you can see fossil fuel starting to come down over time while solar and wind go up dramatically. And the reason they're going up dramatically is the cost per megawatt is going down fast and far. And it's just amazing how far it's gone. So that even natural gas is becoming less competitive with solar and wind energy because of cost. This forecast, oops, all right. As of June 1, 331 mayors across the country have signed on to do just what you're proposing tonight. 47 of those cities are in California. I hope your action today will spur other cities in our county into taking the same action. And finally, what can you do? There's a lot of things you can do locally, promoting the use of solar and wind energy, promote energy conservation, which is really the best way to start. And you're already doing that here, but it never hurts to do more, to promote more. Promoting the use of electric vehicles, and you have your charging stations outside, I saw on the way in. And then follow the development of energy storage, because as we in this nation, in California, generate lots of solar and wind energy, we're starting to reach a capacity where you're generating a lot during the day, and what do you do at night? And that's going to require some storage so that you can go through the night. Right now, natural gas-fired and other fossil fuel energy sources are used to pick up the evening, along with hydro and nuclear. So that's kind of where the world is going. Is the big discussion right now is energy storage, and whether it's going to be batteries and what have you. And that's pretty much it. I'll be glad to try to answer any of your questions.
Okay. Anybody have any questions, Mr. Baldwin?
Oh, I would just ask that you, when you redo that slideshow, don't forget to put under that, what you can do is to reduce your car use and ride and walk and use the trolley, the bus, public transportation as much as possible. Because that's really the wave of the future, because even with electric vehicles, you have to store them, which then means you have to pave.
Right.
Just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dick. I really appreciate you coming up and sharing that with us.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And now, Stephen Bennett, our supervisor from...
Good evening. Good to see all of you. I'm here to encourage you to adopt the resolution and the recommendations with item 4 on your agenda. The Board of Supervisors adopted a similar resolution a few weeks ago. And Santa Barbara County is going to consider, I just spoke with Supervisor Doss Williams, and he will be agendizing this in Santa Barbara County soon. After the Board of Supervisors adopted this, I'm trying to encourage all the cities in Ventura County to adopt it. And the reason is that the president pulling the United States out of the Paris Accords is embarrassing. It is something that will, I think, be very detrimental to the United States' ability to exercise world leadership. And there are so many situations where the United States, with the great leadership that we've had since World War II, has actually been able to make positive change in the world. But to link us up with only 2 other countries in the world that have not signed the Paris Accords is a shameful thing to have happened. And so for me, it comes down to we at the local level can at least try to counter that negative impact on our country and our country's leadership some by being able to say, look at all of these places, all of these cities, all of these counties, all of these states have disagreed with the president and think that we should have stayed into the Paris Peace Accords. It is a real compliment to have Dick Baldwin's leadership. I mean, here he's retired and he's just been after this issue, and he's been after clean air for 40 years, as he talked about. And so just really appreciate that he stepped up. It helped us with our Board of Supervisors to have Dick there and speaking. Unfortunately, our Board of Supervisors did not unanimously adopt this resolution. Another, in my mind, shameful action to link us with the other 2 countries. By the way, Nicaragua, it's Nicaragua and Syria. Nicaragua didn't sign it because they didn't think it was strong enough. Right, not because they were opposed to it, and so I just encourage you to take this action, and hope that after you do, if that is in fact what you decide to do, that you'll help try to encourage other cities to take this action in Ventura County also. The fact that we did not have a unanimous vote of the Board of Supervisors makes me concerned that there may be many cities that will, for political reasons, decide not to do this. I hope that the 2 cities in my district that are completely in my district, Ojai and the city of Ventura, will step forward and do this. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Is there anyone, do I have any cards? I think I do have some cards on this. Item number 4. Michael Shapiro.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. I just want to applaud you for this this motion. It's wonderful. It gives, I think, the people of Ojai a real official platform that holds us on our, holds us up, really, to do all the work that so many people do in terms of keeping and making and promoting Ojai to be a green city as much as possible. And if we could increase our solar power throughout the city even more, and this resolution, I think, puts us on the map for a city that's forward-thinking in terms of the environment, and everything that we do and so many people are involved in follows that. So we thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Russell Sidney.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson, honorable council members. Russell Sidney, Ojai Valley Green Coalition. I want to thank you for bringing this forward as well, not just for the chance to speak. I'm thrilled that we are moving in this direction. Not everyone is aware that the Ojai Valley Green Coalition was created as a result of the movie An Inconvenient Truth, thanks in large part to Supervisor Bennett and his efforts around that. We support both the Paris Climate Accord and all efforts to reduce greenhouse gases. The U.S. has around 5%, this is more for the camera guys, sorry, of the world's population, and yet reports indicate we create as much as 25% of the greenhouse gases. That is a reflection of our way of life, our work, our transportation, and how we spend our money. Changing the greenhouse gas emissions means changes to all of that. As part of this effort, the Ojai Valley Green Coalition is working to bring solutions into play with the idea that we need an Ojai Climate Accord to bring all our good people into creating effective solutions, including solar energy. He kind of, all what he said, particularly the electric vehicles, the electric vehicle charging systems, which it's important for us to focus on getting a local DC fast charging system, both in our community and around the county. So we salute the city of Ojai and the leadership and the key role that you play, and invite all the people in the valley to get even more engaged in the effort, including working through the OVGC to create a community that has an Ojai Climate Accord. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Russell. Michelle Ellison?
Hello, my name is Michelle Ellison. I'm a member of this community, along with my husband Andrew and 2 young children. I'm also a member of the board on the Ojai Valley Green Coalition. I want to thank you also for bringing this important matter up for discussion today. We face a global climate crisis. The very habitability of our planet is at stake for millions of species, including human beings. Climate change is not some far-off, distant concern hundreds or thousands of years away, but is happening right now and worsening at an alarming rate. Our environment has been drastically altered, throwing entire ecosystems out of balance. For too long, we have failed to appreciate our relationship with nature. We are not masters of it, but integrally part of it, and in fact, dependent upon it. Do we really think we can take and exploit the Earth's finite resources forever and continue burning polluting fossil fuels when renewable clean energy is readily available? If we actually stop and allow ourselves to think about this, reason dictates that we cannot carry on with business as usual, and we must pursue a more sustainable path in earnest. This is not a political point of view, nor a matter of personal opinion, but based on overwhelming scientific consensus. Climate change is real, it is man-made, and it must be stopped if we want to avoid catastrophic consequences. So what does this mean for Ojai? Well, we're not immune to the effects of climate change, as it affects everyone everywhere, some areas particularly vulnerable. It's in our collective interest and our moral responsibility to be part of the solution and not the problem. As such, I implore Ojai to uphold the Paris Climate Agreement, joining hundreds of other U.S. cities, states, and counties, like our very own Ventura County, standing in solidarity with the rest of the world, saying we must act on climate now and meet emission reduction targets. More importantly, my hope is that we in Ojai adopt an ambitious but doable climate action plan to achieve 100% clean energy within the next 5 to 10 years. I am personally committed to helping make this happen and look forward to working with you and others. In closing, I love our community. We live in such an incredibly beautiful place, abundant and rich natural diversity that sustains us and brings us enjoyment. I encourage us all to consider what role we can play in the bigger picture and what kind of valley we envision for ourselves now and for the generations to follow us. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Anybody I miss out there? Sure the...
Hello, I didn't anticipate to speak again, but I didn't realize this item was on the agenda, and I really feel strongly about it. So again, my name is Vina Lustado, and I just want to say that the primary motivation I actually built and designed and live in my tiny house is because of the crisis that we have in our environment. It wasn't really for me regarding financial reasons. It was more because of the situation we have with their environment, and I felt really strongly that I needed to do something about that. So I really applaud the City Council for bringing this on the agenda, and I highly support it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I put this on the agenda. When I ran for office, I think the three most important things we as a city council can do, particularly in a place that has the topography of the Ojai Valley. Not only is it a beautiful place, but it's also a form of trap when it comes to an inversion layer. And the three things that we need to pay attention to are, fiscal accountability in order to be able to pay our bills and to do those things that are necessary to make the community safe on the streets. But the two most essential things that we have to do is a secure and clean water supply and clean air. Because if we don't do it as a council, we can't, it may in many cases be symbolic, but we have to at least have an agreement on the target and support those who support the same view that we have. So anyhow, we have two resolutions. Paul?
Mr. Mayor, first of all, I want to say that I'm in complete support of the second resolution, which is the resolution that the City Council to have 100% clean, renewable energy in the town. But I have a real problem with the first one. And my problem isn't that I wasn't disturbed because we pulled out of the Paris Agreement. But that is an agreement that was reached at a federal level. We don't have the agreement in our packet to review. So while there may be things within that agreement that I agree with, there may be something in that agreement that I disagree with, but I haven't reviewed it. I haven't done any independent research into it. I am all for concentrating our efforts on the greenhouse gases, and I truly believe in climate change. But without having the Paris Agreement, the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement in our packet for us to review, if I was voting on it, I'd be voting on it simply for a purely political reason, and I'm not prepared to do that.
Okay. Well, yeah, and okay, thank you, Paul, and then good comments. I neglected to ask if we had a motion, and I guess, do we have a motion on the 100% clean energy resolution?
So moved.
So moved, okay, and a second?
A second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the 100% clean energy. Do we have any discussion on that?
So just to be clear, we're doing two different resolutions.
There are two resolutions,
Okay.
right?
The old phrase, think global, act local, applies here, and my comments directed to Supervisor Bennett. I think this city council is very interested in working with the County Board of Supervisors for converting things like all the service equipment for lawns and roadways and rights-of-way to electric power, getting away from internal combustion. Same thing we're looking at, the possibilities with the rapid advance of that technology. So I think there's always power in buying together and adopting together, and we're all in it, especially in the valley together here. So I just want to express, I think personally, and I think some of my colleagues will feel the same way. If there's opportunities for cooperation for the county towards that end, let's do it.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Other comments?
Just a simple one. My brother-in-law has been doing wind energy for 35 years. He's on the forefront of this, and he is a strong advocate of moving in this direction worldwide. So I can't piss my brother-in-law off. I'm going to see him this weekend. So, no, but this is a no-brainer. That's why I was not opposed to Mayor. In fact, I appreciate you bringing it to the chambers. But it is. It's who we are as a species, and it's where we need to go. It's that simple.
Any other comments? If not, roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
Yes.
Councilmember Blatz?
Yes.
Councilmember Francina?
Yes.
Councilmember Haney?
Yes.
Mayor Johnston?
Yes. Okay, is there a motion regarding the Paris Agreement?
I'm very comfortable to adopt a resolution which supports the Paris Climate Agreement and pledging to continue the city's efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I feel I'm not familiar with it word for word, but I know that I'm familiar enough to approve this resolution. Do I need to say anything else? Do I need to read the resolution?
No, you don't need to read the resolution. The motion, perhaps adding "so moved" would accomplish your goal.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Oh, I was second it.
Okay. Moved and seconded, okay. Supervisor Bennett, you made some remarks down at the Board of Supervisors as to the impact of what the Paris Agreement is and is not, and maybe that will be somewhat helpful to the council, too.
Certainly, and I certainly respect Councilmember Blatt's concerns. What I would offer to you from a conceptual standpoint is that the Paris Peace Accords do not force anybody to do anything, one, except set a goal and then report on how they're doing in terms of reaching that goal. But there's no penalty, there's nothing, there's no consequence that happens if you don't. But, and that's why all these countries basically were able to sign on, is they didn't say everybody's got to cut 20%. They said everybody can set their own goal. So it's not dissimilar to what the city of Ojai is doing. You're setting a goal, but you're not setting yourself up for some kind of financial penalty or consequence if you don't hit it, but you certainly are not very likely to hit it if you don't set it in terms of a goal. And so I applaud you for already accepting this last action, and the Paris Peace Accords essentially do that. So that's why I was very comfortable at the Board of Supervisors level saying, if we were going to follow the spirit of the Paris Peace Accords, we would set a goal, and then we would report on how we're doing on that goal. That's all it does, and that's why it makes it, in my mind, even more inappropriate for the United States to have dropped out of a situation where, the implication is we can't afford this, we're going to set our own goal. I mean, we were setting our own goal at that point in time, and the president could have adopted a different goal if he wanted to, but to pull out altogether makes no common sense to me. Thank you very much. For
I have two questions. Actually, Supervisor Bennett, it seems like we need to do a countywide Paris Agreement and get the 13 cities within our county to actually agree on this goal. Sure. And actually set up some type of a commission where each city reports exactly what they were trying to do nationally. And I think the first thing that you have to do is acknowledge that you have to do this. There has to be an acknowledgement first. And then my question is, we are still in it. I hadn't heard that phrase. Can you expand on that?
It just says we, whoever it is that's passing the resolution, is saying we are going to set a goal and report out to the public our goal. That's the we are still in it. So although the United States has pulled out, we have hundreds and hundreds of cities and dozens of counties and about a dozen states that are saying we're still in it. Okay. That's what that refers to.
Thank you.
With regards to your comment about all this, doing it in the city of, in the county of Ventura, the fact that two supervisors were not willing to step forward identifies sort of there is a political component to this, and that political component will be an interesting challenge, but it is certainly something that I hope we'll find out as we try to sweep across the county and ask other cities to adopt the same resolution. But thank you very much for that leadership.
Mr. Mayor, I just have, and perhaps a question or a comment. This resolution that's before us, I have no problem with Ojai setting goals in conjunction with the county. I think it's important that we do. But this resolution, to me, is a very political resolution that says that it has things in here that I do not believe, other than on a personal belief. I believe in it. But from a purely city council standpoint, where it says that we're referring to this Paris Climate Agreement, which is a continuation of America's leadership role in reducing GGEs to prevent global climate changing, continuing efforts to reduce it. I don't see how the city can unless you want to give, I'm not even sure how you give the climate change agreement support without having the agreement in front of you. I mean, if we want to set a goal and we want to pull those things out of the agreement that are in there that are important to our climate change, I'm all for it. But to just unanimously have to vote on the Paris Agreement when we don't even have the agreement in front of us is troublesome to me. And it's not there, and I don't have the ability to look at it. And quite frankly, I think the agreement itself probably has an awful lot that has to do with the national economy and the national environment, and it wasn't the states that signed it, it was the federal government that had signed it. And from a political standpoint, my political belief is that I was supporting it. But how can I support it as an individual council person when I don't have it in front of me? We have no staff report on it. And it says it just principally says we're going to accept the agreement as it stands, but when are we going to set our goals? How are we going to set our goals? How are we going to work with the county? I just find that problematic from a council person's standpoint. Now, if I want to make just a purely political statement, sure, I'll vote for it. But I just find it hard when we're saying that this city is going to adopt a federal agreement without having the agreement even in our packet. And if we want to continue this part and get a copy of the agreement so we all can review it, then maybe I could vote for it. But I have not read the agreement. I don't know what's in it. And it's very difficult for me to vote for something when I don't know what I'm voting for.
Okay.
I have a question of the city attorney. If I make a motion and someone seconds it, but the majority of the council doesn't adopt this resolution, does that mean we can't bring it up at a future agenda?
No, you retain the power to put it on a future agenda item.
Okay.
And it either could be put back on by the mayor who put it on in the first place, or else two members of council can add it to a future agenda.
Okay.
Or the whole council could, if the motion fails, you could propose that it be put on a future agenda, perhaps with some adjustments to respond to the concerns.
Thank you. I just want to be sure. I do know that several of my constituents were very excited when they saw that that this was before the Board of Supervisors. And I know that many, many people in Ojai are looking forward to our adopting this resolution, because this, to me, is a clear statement that we understand the severity of what is happening to the world at this moment in time. So I still support this resolution.
What's happening to the world at this time with regard to climate change?
Yes. The number of species that are dying every day, what's happening to the ocean, what's happening to the air, what's happening to the soil. We are in a crisis. This resolution acknowledges that crisis.
Yeah, my reason for putting it on the agenda was not, in fact, when I was before the Board of Supervisors, my remark was that I don't see this as a partisan political issue, but I would acknowledge what Paul is saying. It's been politicized, and it was politicized in a campaign, and as keeping a campaign promise, our president kept his campaign promise, and he said what he said. His predecessor also made promises, and he did what he said. But to me, the Paris Agreement, is fairly lengthy. In fact, if you look at the mayor's resolution that was adopted down in Florida this past week, it goes on and on and on. But here's the essence of it, to me, is there's an adage that says that which gets noticed gets done. You have to focus on your goal and have a goal. In as much as we can set whatever goal we choose, it seems like this is a good place to start. There's another adage that I think is what pushes back a little, and they say, be careful what you measure, because you're very likely to get it. Well, that's the reason why they want reporting and why we want to set some kind of metric of figuring out what can we do. It'll be small here in the valley, but it will be collectively the best that we can do as a species. So anyway, Well, obviously, put
Mr.
her
Mayor,
on here, so I'm for
if
it.
I could just make one more comment. Why can't we do that without referencing the Paris Agreement? Why can't we set our goals? Why can't we have measurable goals? Why do we have to reference an agreement that we don't have in our packet?
Well, I would like to answer that in part, at least. On the mayor's, there's a report from the mayor here, climate change report, and on the discussion, it says, world leaders signed the first global commitment to fight climate change in December 2015 in Paris, France. The agreement is a commitment to take action to curb the threat that climate change poses to our health, our environment, and our economy. It is signed by virtually every eligible nation on the planet except Syria and Nicaragua. The agreement allows each country to set its own emission targets and adopt its own strategies for reaching its goals. On June 1st, 2017, President Trump declared that the United States will withdraw from the Paris Agreement and go back on our nation's commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 26 to 28% by 2025. Local and state governments and businesses are credited with significant reductions in greenhouse gas emissions since there has been greater focus and understanding of importance of everyone doing their part. Many of these entities, including Ventura County, have reaffirmed their commitment and have invited us to join them in signing on to the We Are Still In letter of declaration. And there are other parts to this, but I think that is why I think we should adopt this resolution, hopefully tonight, or if not, at the next meeting. Thank you.
Other comments? If not?
Do we have a motion?
Yes, we do. There's
Yeah.
a motion.
Sorry,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
you have a motion and a second
Thank
to
you.
adopt.
So if there's no further.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to offer an alternative motion on top of Councilwoman. The Councilwoman's. I would like to adopt a motion that we continue this matter to our next meeting, at which time staff can brief us on the agreement itself, and at that time we can take an action. So my motion is to continue this matter to the next meeting, at which time we can have a staff report on exactly what it is we are approving by this motion.
Is there a second to the request? That's basically a motion to continue.
I understood that as a substitute motion to continue, which if seconded, would be voted on first, and if approved, would
yeah.
replace the prior motion.
So I'll second that because I have, I can go either way on this, but I want to respect Councilman Blatz's wishes. And I think the majority of us, whether we do it tonight or we do it at the next council session, are still going to pass it. But I still want to respect Councilman Blatz's views and opinions on this.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion?
I just want to comment, and I do respect you, but when something this important is on the agenda, I think it behooves us, if we have concerns, to do the necessary research on our own. There's no reason with the internet that you couldn't have looked up the Paris Agreement and read it word for word, so you'd be comfortable to adopt it.
Right.
But that's all I have to say.
Other comments? Okay, if not, call the roll on the substitute motion.
Councilmember Haney?
Yes.
Councilmember Francina?
No.
Councilmember Blatz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
My wife made sure I read the agreement already. No.
Mayor Johnston?
No. Okay, the motion on the floor, moved and seconded. You call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
Yes, and I do respect, in general, the point that we should have all materials in a packet before approving, and I'm kind of making an exception to my rule tonight. Yes.
Councilmember Blatz?
No.
Councilmember Francina?
Yes.
Mayor Johnston?
Yes.
Councilmember Haney?
As the councilman who seconded both, I'll vote yes on this too.
Okay, motion carries.
Mayor Johnson, I need a 1-minute break.
Yeah, we're going to take a 5-minute break for those of you who have lost interest or have something else to do, and we'll be right back.
Jen, you'll arrive at 4.
Back in order on item number 2, the budget review and adoption.
Oh, no, we're back on. Are we back on that?
Por favor, your attention, please. Okay. There we are. Okay. We're on item number 2, the 17-18 budget review and adoption. How do we want to, well, I guess we have public comment at some point. We got to have a public hearing open first. Is that step 1? Okay.
Yeah,
the
please open the public hearing.
Hearing is now open. And number 2. I do have I have one card.
Get my cheat sheet out here.
Okay, Russell. Russell Sidney is my only card so far. There may be others.
Honorable Mayor, council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I put in a card where I actually didn't want to speak this time. Russell Sidney with the Ojai Valley Green Coalition. And I just want to say how much I appreciate being able to watch your budget process. You folks are really digging in and looking at the level of financial management and the concerns that are related to funding priorities in a way that I think is really going to make a difference for us moving forward, especially in these challenging times. The Ojai Valley Green Coalition is here to help the community engage in dealing with the challenges of these times, specifically in the areas of the impact on our environment and quality of life. We are helping to take the steps to create a resilient and sustainable community. We are a significant part of the community taking action on drought planning, water security, clean energy, clean transportation, including the bicycle safety and the electric vehicle adoptions. And as we just talked about, these are all the things that it takes to meet the climate accord. Your support is critical to our ability to do this work. Making our modest request a priority will make a difference to us as we work to make a difference for the community and for the environment and for our climate. We are the ounce of prevention to avoid the pounds of problems. Thank you for your work and for your ongoing support.
Okay, thank you, Russell. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Lori Walters. I'm a fairly new member of the board of the Ojai Valley Green Coalition. Michelle, who spoke earlier, is newer than me, but we're both, we really are excited to be part of the Green Coalition at this time, especially as the city is dreaming of 100% renewable energy. That's our dream too. And when I first got to Ojai, I moved here in 2001, and I looked around and said, okay, this is beautiful. So we have the Land Conservancy saving land. Now, where's that group that, you know, kind of watches out for the whole environment of Ojai and policy and people's habits and building green and things? And it wasn't here until the Green Coalition. And there's just so much potential here. I mean, why not solar on every building? I mean, every house. We're an east-west valley. We have so much sun. Obviously, I didn't prepare to speak. I just wanted to communicate my enthusiasm and my dedication as part of the board of this group to make sure we play a vital part in creating this green model city. What better place than Ojai, which, as you said, has this inversion lake where the air has nowhere to go. It comes up against the mountains, and we build up our own bad air here. We have to have sustainable vehicles and energy-producing buildings and watch our air clean up and our whole communities thrive by taking care of our little valley. So I urge you to help the Green Coalition do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. What's your pleasure?
I guess we're in completing the budget review now. I guess the appropriate thing is just to make some comments about a direction. that I personally would like to move in, or
Do we need?
Mr. Summers has a very worried look on his face.
Do we need to close the hearing, or do we?
Let's say, I
keep
would
the
suggest, well, that would depend on whether you want to move the matter forward. You might close the hearing, you can always reopen it if you need to.
Okay.
I was looking at item, I was thinking of closing the public hearing and then getting on to number 2, which is completing the budget review.
Okay.
And on that point, we've went ahead and, as needed, prepared a possible draft continuing resolution if you wish to just adopt the existing budget.
you.
Rather than wrestling with the new budget.
Thank you.
So I can go through that if you'd like, if the council
Okay,
would like.
so should we close the hearing at this point? Okay, well, the hearing is closed. City Attorney, proceed.
Thank you. So what we've put together, it would be attachment A, revised. The revisions are as follows. In lieu of the first whereas, it would read, whereas the City Council desires to continue the existing fiscal year 16-17 budget to enable additional time to consider amendments to the proposed fiscal year 17-18 budget, and intends that the city manager will return with the revised proposed fiscal year 17-18 budget by October 1st, and then, which could be adjusted if you want a different date than October 1st. That's, I think, 3 months out. Second whereas would be the same with one change where it reads, after providing notice and holding a public hearing to solicit and receive public comments on said proposed continuing resolution, and then it would continue. Third whereas is the same. Fourth whereas is deleted, which reflects the changes to the budget, which you're not making. Fifth whereas is stet, and then in the now therefore be it resolved, Section 1 is deleted and replaced to read, Council hereby adopts a continuing resolution directing the continued implementation of the fiscal year 16-17 budget for the fiscal year 17-18 period until further action by the council. And then the second resolve clause is the same. The third resolve clause is adjusted slightly to read, the city manager is further directed to report back to the council by October 1st. Again, you could change that. On a quarterly basis with recommendations for revision of the budget when and if budget impacts are known, and recommended city program adjustments can be formulated, and the rest is as in the packet. The other piece to bear in mind is that the second question to consider is that would keep all the lights on, keep the existing salary, payroll, et cetera. The next question is, do you want to maintain some, all, or none of the proposed capital improvement budget? In particular, the paving project you approved a few minutes ago.
Right.
That's part of the next capital improvement budget. You could delay it or approve it or act as you wish.
I would think we would definitely want to include the capital projects for the roads and the things that need to be done this summer and advertise for bid too.
Another item that you might also want to consider, just to give the group some certainty, would be the community funding request. For example, the request that we received from the Green Coalition and the museum. We have $120,000 in the proposed budget for community outreach, with my recommendation that $70,000 would go to the museum, that would fully fund their request, and $50,000 to the Green Coalition, which is $5,000 short of their request, but it keeps them whole going forward. So I don't know if that's a motion that you would want to make this evening to give them some certainty with their funding. Then the other issue just that I would raise would be, and certainly council could take this up at a later date, would be if they wanted to make any of the adjustments to the employee handbook, including creating the cap on the comp time. But again, those are all issues that could be addressed at a later date.
Paul?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a question that I forgot to ask at the workshop, but this is an appropriate time anyway. Were the revenues adjusted downward as a result of not receiving a full year's worth of the revenues from the OTID?
Yes, they were. They were adjusted, they were prorated because it still continues through October 1st.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Bill?
I would like soon, in our deliberations here, for you to give us a very quick synopsis of what the compensatory time reforms are, because I think that's important possibly to go ahead and adopt tonight, but that is a separate resolution.
Yes, it is.
A continuing resolution.
Absolutely.
So we can take that up separately. Number two, that means no immediate implementation of COLA in the continuing resolution, correct?
Understood.
Okay.
Yeah, that's council's option.
And another option on top of another option with the community funding requests is that also could be continued to a meeting very soon It doesn't have to wait till October 1. If we wanted to get more, further information, I'm just offering my colleagues that comment. If we have questions about some of the community requests, we could also continue that to and simply budget the overall sum and continue that to a meeting, a date certain of another meeting. I believe that's an option, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And the other thing is, I would like any time where it says in that continuing resolution on October 1, I would like it to be changed to on or before October 1.
Very good.
That's my personal feeling, and that's why I'll make that a motion at the appropriate time.
Fine by staff.
That's
Okay.
reasonable, yes.
All right.
The other item that I wanted to mention, well, I think we can take it up at the later date if that's the direction the council wants to go. I just want to make sure that there was a request from the Arts Commission. They had revised their request. They had made some errors in their initial request, but so that is something that we could take up at a later date as well. Obviously, you could continue their current funding, and that would pretty much keep them going. So, but
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Paul?
What current funding? Haven't they expended everything for this year?
I'm just stating if you were to adopt something that were to continue the current fiscal year funding going through, beginning July 1st, that at least the commission would have the operating budget at the same level that they have this current fiscal year. They modify it a little bit from year to year, and then this year they're actually asking for a little bit more. But given the short time period, I think we would still, the commission, I think would probably be able to stay well within their objectives and well within their adopted line items, if that makes sense.
We could also prorate.
Sure.
We could prorate the last year's budget for each of these organizations just for the next few months as well.
Right.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right. That way they know they're funded.
Yeah, that would keep them going to October 1.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think, the finance director would just wanted to clarify, and I think council understands this, that there's no carryover from the current fiscal year.
Right.
It would just be, if we funded something at $10,000 in this current fiscal year, that's what we would go in with the adopted budget.
We're funding at the same level
Right.
next year
Correct.
as it
Right.
currently exists, plus any of the capital projects that we might
We could
include.
we could just fund for 3 months, though.
Assuming we
Right.
weren't going to reduce it this year.
Right.
That's yes,
We could prorate
correct.
it, though, for 3 months.
But how are you going to, we can't get it back from them.
No, but we won't be approving for all 12 months, just 3 months.
Right, but that's going to put us over the budget. If there was a reduction overall in a funding, if we reduced funding in one area,
Right.
and we maintain it for a quarter, let's say, then how are we going to catch up?
Well,
Am I making myself clear?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm going to answer correctly, but what I thought the finance director was suggesting is that and what Mayor Pro Tem is suggesting by proration, is that whatever level we were funding through these community outreach programs, it would be at the same level as the current fiscal year for an additional 3 months. And that between now and then, now, obviously, if there's a cut between now and then,
Okay,
we've already would have given that money. But, yeah, I guess the message that I would hope everybody would have is that, during the good times, we certainly want to share with everybody, but increases right now, until we get a good handle on things, probably isn't in the future or isn't in the near future.
I apologize. I misunderstood it. I thought we were going to continue with commission budgets. I wasn't thinking that we were specifically talking about the community outreach. Of course, I'm in favor of that. I was thinking of if we're continuing with a line item budget, prorating it, and that went away for this year.
No.
Then we're going to continue to fund something that we weren't planning on funding.
I see, yeah.
That's all. And that may not be the case.
Okay, well, then maybe it's a question for the city
Yeah.
attorney. Matt, if we were doing a continuing resolution at the same current level of funding, but only for 3 months of the year, does that kind of cap whatever exposure is that Paul's referring to?
I mean, it would be a matter of you'd be facing as long as it takes you to adjust a new budget. In other words, the scenario that Councilmember Blatz is describing is possible. You could, if the current budget has money for a particular purpose that you'd like to drop out, you would still be spending it. Rather, you'd be authorizing the money for 3 months. Now, whether it's spent would depend on.
In effect, we're
whether it
moving
needs
the
to
end
be
of the
spent.
fiscal year 3 months. Right. Are we not?
That's right.
Yeah.
You'd be
that's the way
continuing
we
your
look at it,
current
yeah.
spending. So you're right, there could be places where you were going to reduce, you would like to reduce funding for the next budget. that you would be spending for 3 months. Although it's worth pointing out, budget allocation and expenditures don't always match, depending on what the thing is at issue. But but it wouldn't at all bar or bind your decisions for the next
I
budget once you
understand.
adopt it.
It's just a budget. I mean, it's
I
not
think you can change
it's not
it.
an approval.
It's an authorization.
It's authorization to spend it. It's not
I'm fine with
direction, you must spend it.
I'm fine with
You know, also, Mayor, also, come October, we're gonna have a better idea of what the revenues for the year ending are too.
Right.
So it'll actually give us, a better picture of where we are,
Yeah,
financially.
seeing the books even closed out in advance of the audit is helpful. Yeah, I agree with you.
So
That's a
I'll
good
try a
point.
motion if
Okay,
you want me to.
go ahead, sure. Well, you're the risk taker. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
that's right. So I'm going to make a motion to adopt the continuing resolution as read by the city attorney with the words "on October 1st" changed to "on or before," with the understanding of proceeding with the 2017-2018 CIP budget as presented? No?
Oh, well, I had a thought that popped in my head, so.
All those thoughts.
Sorry, on the honor before, just knowing that with our currently adopted calendar, we're scheduled to go dark the fourth Tuesday in September, which means we would have a meeting the second Tuesday in September.
Preclude waiting till October 1? On or
Oh,
before?
yeah, why don't we just have it as the first meeting in October? And obviously, if we get to it before that, we can cut it short.
In October.
Oh, okay, I thought you meant the 1st of October.
He did.
That's what I thought, too.
I just said change the word "on" to "on or before."
The first meeting
First
is
meeting.
different from October 1st.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a second to that motion?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and I guess.
I'll finish off my comment, and
Okay,
my motion in a second.
the gist of what when you said on or before, to keep the opportunity open to do it sooner. right?
Yes.
Not necessarily it has to.
No.
Right, okay. yeah. Okay,
Exactly.
everybody clear on that?
Precisely.
Okay.
I'm clear, thank
Good
you.
thought.
And then to pick up again, to adopt the 2017-2018 CIP budget as presented, and to,
Now, is that the Public Works? Is
that's the
that?
capital improvement project.
Yeah, but is that just in Public Works, or does it extend beyond Public Works?
Well, that was going to be my question, clarification, because we have the CIP program, and we also have the Fund 33 portion, which is the automobiles, equipment, and IT, and they are separated. So I just want to make clarification that that's what we're.
My intent was the entire CIP budget.
Okay.
It's clear.
All right, in my motion.
Okay.
And finally, that I'm not sure how the right phrase for community programs to be, community organization programs to be.
Community outreach funding?
Outreach funding to be funded at the 2016-2017 level for an additional 3 months of the beginning of the fiscal year.
Okay, so we have a motion on the
I'll
floor.
second.
Yeah, I think we have a second too
Oh.
already.
Okay,
but that's
either way, we're fine.
Well, you can both sign on to the bill, it's good. Okay. Any other discussion, or shall we call the roll?
Cole?
Okay, clerk, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
Yes.
Mayor Johnston?
Yes.
Councilmember Blatz?
Yes.
Councilmember Haney?
Yes.
Councilmember Francina?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all.
We have
Okay.
number 4 now.
We've done number 4, right?
No,
There's another
Yeah, I was
resolution on
gonna
this
say, what
item.
were we gonna do with the,
Salaries and updating the employee handbook.
right?
Oh.
Yeah, including the comp time
I want to hear about the
correct.
comp time.
Okay. I gotta find, so the,
Yeah, sure, right, yeah, no, I was looking at agenda item number 4. You meant the subsection 4 under the public.
so what we're
Right.
proposing is a cap on the comp time accruals. Currently, the city has no policy for a cap on comp time, so employees could continue to receive that and bank that. What we're proposing is proposing a cap of 40 hours of comp time per employee. Employees that are already exceeding 40 hours of comp time as of June 30th, or whatever date this would be enacted, would be paid out for the excess hours. There are currently 4 employees with more than 40 hours of comp time, and the anticipated budget impact is about $5,000. Adopting the cap would limit the city's future liability by ensuring that large banks of hours are not built up over time.
And Mr.
The-
McClure?
yes, that's-
Is that
that's the
40
assessment
hours
comp time.
lifetime accrual
They could not go, they could never go beyond 40 hours.
over their employment period, entire employment?
No, what I think
No.
what that means is that they could have a
Councilman
bank of time, or in effect, 1 week of leave that they could keep that would be
The
able to.
bank can't
They're
get no
gonna
bigger
bank,
than.
yes.
Right.
Right, and if it goes
Right.
over that, then it needs to be paid time, in effect.
Correct.
Right.
That's correct, right.
Which is a good budgetary practice, so
Yes.
that we don't expand our spending through comp
Right.
time.
We would agree.
And so the proposed motion, the proposed adopted resolution would be to convert the named positions from 36 to 40 and the employee handbook changes.
That's correct. It also amends the salary resolution, which I understand the council may want, they may not want to do at this
So we're
time.
not, we're going to delete the 2%,
Well,
right?
You're not going to consider it at this time, correct?
No, I don't think so.
is there any need to accelerate this, or, because that's a fairly just the handbook itself is quite a document to go through.
Yeah.
Unless there's an urgency to it, I'd recommend that we just carry that right along with the budget, and we can bring it back sooner, as you would say.
Okay.
No.
Council's option, it's not a huge difference either way, and I don't think we're going to have a huge change to the leave banks between now and then.
Right.
All right, well,
Okay.
we could just not adopt anything.
Okay.
Very well.
All right.
So that was item number 4. Anything else on this topic? Okay, let's see, we've done, number 3 has been continued, 4 has been completed. That's our next, Ojai Trolley Fare and Service Modifications. Is that,
Which number are we?
it's
Yes,
number
Mr.
5.
Grant will be giving the report, and Mr. Grant, when you're done, I would like just a brief concluding word as well at the end of your report. Thank you.
Good evening again, Mayor and council members. I'm here tonight to present the Ojai Trolley Fare and Service Modifications. Staff is recommending that council consider the Ojai Trolley System fare increases and service reductions in order to improve the fare box recovery ratio. So that's a bit of a technical item, and I think that'll launch me into a quick PowerPoint that'll help explain this for everybody. And it's always hard to get the right direction on this. But the fare box recovery ratio is an efficiency financial calculation done on a transit systems. They basically take the total ratio of locally generated funds, so things like fare boxes, what you receive internally. You could add things like general funds and so on, but right now it's generally fare box and route guarantees and other local funds. And you divide that by the operating expenses. So it's an efficiency measure. The TDA, the Transit Development Agency, that's state, and the Fed, which is the Federal Transit Authority, under the Federal Transit Act, both use that efficiency measure. And what they do is they take urbanized areas and they require a higher ratio, around 20% for urbanized areas, assuming a lot more people ride the buses. For rural areas, they use 10%. So last year in May, the VCTC, the Ventura County Transportation Commission, passed a resolution clarifying that the TDA money, the state money that we get, grant money to run the trolley, and just as a reminder, the trolley is completely operated on grant money and fare box and associated funds. It's an enterprise fund. There's no outside money going into this fund at this point. But the issue is that last year,
Greg, when you say outside money, you're speaking within the like general fund or other money, or
right?
what?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. If you're not
clarify. Yeah, it's enterprise fund, so it's all grant money and fare box,
Right.
and there's no general fund money going into its enterprise. So last year, and also as a reminder, about half the mileage of the trolley is operated by in the unincorporated areas. So half the cost are shared through an agreement with the county. They pay for half of all of the expenses remaining after all this grant money, and they do that through their TDA funds that they receive. But last year, VCTC decided to enforce and clarify a guideline from TDA. It's an older guideline that basically says that money that the county gives us, TDA money, cannot be considered as fare box or locally generated funds. So it creates a situation where we used to meet the 20% requirement for an urbanized area. But when you get rid of that accounting for that county money, we no longer make that 20% fare box recovery ratio. So now we're in a situation where we have to tighten up. We have a few options I'll present to the council for considerations. The idea is for you to consider some of the options the staff is recommending here, and we would do some outreach with the community and bring it back for your final consideration in late July. So as I mentioned here, I guess a few of the bullets, the penalty for non-compliance is a loss of future TDA funding equal to the difference between the required and the actual funding fare box recovery ratio. And I'll get into that a little bit more to make sense of that. So approximately right now, we have about a 10% fare box recovery ratio, meaning we have about $800,000+ of total cost, and we have locally generated revenues about 80,000. So we're getting 80,000 revenues divided by 800,000 expenses, 10%. But we need to get towards 10%. Whatever we don't achieve, they penalize us in the future years. It takes a few years for it to actually kick in. And they reduce your TDA funding in that year by whatever you're short on the fare box recovery ratio. I hope that's making some sense, right? So in other words, we're at 10% now. We should be at 20 is the way they're enforcing it now. So we would have to come up with $80,000 of additional revenue, or we could reduce our expenses by half. That'd be extremely difficult. And so we'll present a few different options to try to get us closer towards the 20% to reduce that penalty. The TDA penalty timeline is shown here. We are finishing up the grace year. We are in the 10%, and VCTC is serious about enforcing this. So we are not receiving the penalty now, but the grace year is over. It's obvious we're not making the 20% requirement, and they're enforcing it. So next year will be the non-compliance year, and that will be, if it continues, it becomes what's defined as a non-compliance year. So they'll take however much we are short, and this next year, starting in a few weeks here, or next week, I guess, right? And they will calculate how short we are, and then 2 more years down the line, they reduce our TDA funding by that amount. So it takes that cycle. So in fiscal year 1920 is shown there. The cities, the claimant's eligibility will be reduced by the difference between the required fare revenues and the actual fare revenues based on the non-compliance year. So I just want to review a little bit here. So I mean, the overall picture is we've got 80,000 revenues divided by 800,000. These are very rough numbers, keep the math straight. So we have 10% fare box recovery ratio. We need to get to 20%. So somehow we need to either half our expenses or double our revenues. So we're going to suggest a mix of that. So these are kind of a recap. We do receive the federal FTA funding. We receive state TDA money, fare box revenues, and the Ojai Valley Inn has a route guarantee for a relatively small amount, $5,500. The options to improve this fare box recovery ratio would be, we could do number one, we could meet the rule of the law by simply adding $80,000 from general funds. And that now would take 80,000 fare box, make it 160, divided by the $800,000 of expenses, and you make your 20%. Keeping in mind that we share all costs with the county, so that would be $40,000 contributed by the city, 40 from the county. So that's option one. Option two would be we could increase the fare box revenues. If we really want to make it all the way, as I said, you go 100%, which would be a high fare for the region. It would be unusual. But our fares are substandard to the region, so we are recommending partial increased fare box revenues, or increase in fares.
Increased revenue means increased rates, not increased ridership, although increased ridership would be welcomed, right?
Right, exactly. Okay. And we'll hit that a bit. We could also reduce expenses, but it's very hard. You have to reduce a lot of expenses. And I should highlight expenses on our side is we have part-time drivers, non-benefited drivers. So it's not like Gold Coast where they have unionized drivers, very expensive per hour. So we have really a nice dedicated crowd of drivers taking care of things on a part-time basis. And so we have fairly tight expenses. And in case anybody doesn't know, our relatively new trolley supervisor is here, Austin Nostrup, and he took over for Drew Lurie a year and a half ago. Yeah. And so we could do a combination of these two up above, which is what we're recommending. And is there other options? We have that proposed as well. We could be more aggressive about route guarantees, or we could, right now we have, I guess in the business to call it headway, or the round trips of the trolley right now are 1 hour, half an hour through most of our primary timing. We could go to hourly. There's those kind of factors that would reduce service significantly and help with the cost, but they still don't come anywhere as close to that. So just a little reminder here, our fares right now, our general fares are $1 per ride. You can get a discounted token if you buy them up front in quantity. Seniors pay 50 cents. If you have an ADA or Medicare card, it's a quarter. Day pass is just double any of those standard fares for an individual, and children under 5 ride free. And the 2016 total stats, Austin's gone through and figured that out from our daily counts. And you can see that full fare is roughly half, and then it's broken out through all the various categories, relatively level, although the ADA medical fare is a bit higher.
A question, Mayor Johnson?
Question too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Randy?
Go ahead, Randy.
Okay.
First of all, I think, the fare increase makes sense. It's been many years, costs go up, so.
Right.
But the point I wanted to make was, I was a little taken aback that the longest you can buy a pass for is 1 day. And the reason I make that comment is that, let's say I'm a parent that wants to, have the kid ride regularly, or say, you don't need a car yet, I'm going to give you a trolley pass. And, I'd like to have a monthly way of having a monthly pass to just automatically charge my credit card every month.
Right.
And there's a reason that companies like that kind of thing, because a lot of people, it's time and the bother of billing more than it is actual cost. And frankly, a lot of people probably wouldn't be on that every day, but what I'm trying to say is, I just don't understand why technologically that wouldn't be a way to improve maybe participation. I mean, I would be happy to buy a pass and have it charged.
I'd buy a pass right now for a year if you had one, even if I never used it, it.
And let me address that.
I don't,
You haven't heard his price yet, though. Right?
Let me address that in VCT.
I will use it, but,
Why don't you step up? Austin knows the full details of that, because there is right now VCTC on his way on that, yeah.
So currently, we actually have, as our quantity or our kind of monthly pass sort of program would be the token program. So that's a 20% discount. Right now, the technology that we do have in the buses is essentially just a metal box that collects the fare.
We don't have a scan.
We don't have a scanner. However, VCTC recently approved funding, so it's sometime in this next 6 months, year and a half, somewhere in there, just depending on a couple other projects. But they would allow us to accept passes. And so it would allow us to basically go to a modern fare box or something along those lines.
I would think that would really help the revenue. You get something mailed to you every month, and then you hop on and you swipe it and you're on.
Yeah,
or you give it to your kid or whatever.
The current system, and we would basically be getting the system that Gold Coast is using, Gold Coast VCTC countywide. In fact, most agencies have adopted them, and it would allow for a monthly pass that could be purchased at a center. We actually sell them here in City Hall for Gold Coast. And so that's something that we may be able to consider in the future, but with currently what we have available in the buses, and at least for this coming fiscal year, we would not have the ability to go to a monthly or an annual pass. In place of that, we do have the tokens, which we sell a packet. Anybody can get on board. It's $20 for a packet of tokens.
I know.
I agree with you.
The
technology is great. It's a pretty big capital investment, and up until now, we haven't had the ability to do that. So.
Roughly, what is the capital investment for a scanner?
I would not be able to tell you off the top of my head, but it's tens of thousands of dollars per unit. And then there's some other parts to that where you have to have infrastructure in place at each facility, which can also add to those costs. So, all right.
Well, I'd want a second opinion on that.
I had two questions, Mayor.
I think the point, though, they're coming. VCTC had them. They had a problem with the first generation, and now they're putting the new generation in. They're coming up quick.
As quickly as the liaison to VCTC, we're the stepchildren of the county because of our ridership. We're just we're just almost like non-existent in the discussions. But it would great to be able to have some of these concerns that you're bringing up given to me so that I could take it and agendize it, at least have a broader discussion regarding our concerns. Aside from that, how on your chart here, I would need two things. First of all, ridership, how many are city and how many are outside of city? I would think that if we're going to be addressing raising fares, it'd be interesting to see who we're raising fares on. And then the other side of it is you have an $805,000 budget. I would have liked to seen a report on that budget, on where the expenditures are, which we don't have. So that, again, I'm not trying to micromanage what you do, but it would have been nice to be able to see that, to say, to ask questions regarding where could we cut, if we could cut in that side of it to make up the differences.
Understood? Okay. Okay.
I have some comments.
Yeah, Susan?
I know that we grapple with how to afford the trolley every year, but thankfully we recognize how important it is. I was very interested to see the last item about the Ojai Valley Inn on one of the screens. And it just seems with all the tourists that we have, if the visitor centers and all the hotels really promoted the trolley, that would somehow would increase ridership if that really was promoted in the right way. And secondly, you're caught in a bind because if you reduce the number of people using it will go down inevitably, because the way to increase ridership is to improve service. If you reduce service and people have to take an hour instead of a half, if the way, the logistics of that.
And we have more information on that.
Yeah. So, we discussed the trolley several times at the Complete Streets meeting, and it came out that the school buses are no longer running or hardly running, and so there's morning ridership with the students. So maybe there's some way, to have them, there must be some way to have what do students pay? They pay, how does that work?
The student, let me see, help me out here. Yeah, right, they pay the standard general fare, right?
Okay.
Yeah, if they're under 5, kindergarten.
They pay $1 a trip?
Right now.
So $20.
Which is lower than, the standard trolley or bus.
But I mean, is that one way or both ways, so $2?
That's a ride.
$2 a day.
Mm.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are families, I know there are people who don't have any money in this community, let alone $1. There are people like that, so I would strongly support, if we raise the fees, we're going to have to look at that. And I saw that there are considerations where people on Medicare, seniors get discount, but I just want to express that somehow we have to make this work, and we have to look at we look at this every year. I know there are people who with more experience than me, maybe in the audience, that want to speak on this, but it just seems so strange that we can't, have better support for the trolley. So I think the pass, modern day passes would be great, because sometimes I'm with my 2-year-old grandchild, and the thought of, fishing around for change, waiting for a $20, wondering what's there's a lot of people who don't get on the trolley just because of a little small impediments like that. They worry about that.
Okay, thank you. Are any other comments for Greg?
No. I can move forward on this if that's all right. Yeah. And so I'd like to also mention when I started here 5 years ago, that was the first thing I had to deal with. So it's been a 5-year cycle, hanging in there pretty good. This is kind of a new obstacle we're having to deal with. But at that time, we doubled the fares from 50 cents to $1. Still substandard fares, very, very low. And we'll show that in a minute here. But just want to mention, Austin's been working hard on rider survey and all the drivers. They've had them on the trolleys, and they've had them on the website and so on, and they've got pretty good feedback from everybody. The primary, most important factor, everybody, is the frequency of service, like we're saying. So if they have frequent, right now, typically half an hour headways, at least all the primary hours on the weekdays, and that really helps the ridership. And that's an example of the survey that's passed out to the right. You can see other issues, but they're much smaller.
Yeah.
The most common issue is frequent service. And then this is an interesting thing, one of these heat maps that become more common and easier to set up. And so Austin pulled our data together and did this on a free site. And so this origin destination study that he did, where he goes through and works with all of his drivers, and it's a pretty intensive effort to figure out where everybody's getting on and off. So you can see the redder the color is, the more heavily used that area is. So downtown is a hot spot, the Y is a hot spot, and Miners Oaks is a hot spot. All the rest of them are, the green is medium, and the blue is the coolest, less used. But it's pretty well distributed across where you'd expect it, where the population is throughout the whole route that we have, the loop, the double loop.
Okay, we are where in the report as far as you're asking for some direction from council?
Yes.
Okay, and does the council have enough information?
How much longer, how much?
I'll plow right through here, get it done quick. Just extended hour survey, one of the recommendations is to trim the beginning and end of the, where you have very low ridership in the morning and evening, so it's to promote to trim out the last, first two routes and the last two routes. And then this talks about ridership. When we increased fares in fiscal year 11-12, we went from 50 cents to $1. And if you look at that yellow line, you'll see total passengers went from 117,000 per year down to 92, and then came back up to 110 5 years later. But it was the first year was the 20% roughly hit, and then it went quickly back close at 108 to what it was originally. So that was 50 cents to $1. And then you can also see down below, the total revenue, though, went from $56,000, and it went up to $72,000, so a significant increase in revenues. And then the fares that we're talking about would be to match Gold Coast Transit District. They've got fares of $1.50, and all of the standard fares that they have, we'd match them. That simplifies when transfer tickets are given and everything. And actually, when we go to this system where it's going to be all this swipe cards, it'll be easier to have accounting between the agencies as well as the have a standardized fare that people expect. And that'll help us as well. The estimated revenue is we'll see possibly on the conservative side a 10% decrease in ridership, the number of people riding in the year. But our revenue will be a significant increase. It'll be $111,000. So that'll make up increase the revenue about $38,000. Like I say, it'll be a quick dip for a year based on previous, and it'll come back fairly close. The service changes right now, our current hours are Monday through Friday, every 30 minutes during the prime time, and every 60 minutes at the evening, 6 o'clock to 9:30. So we're proposing to change that, highlighted in the yellow, that we go from 6:30 to 5:30. So it'd start an hour later and end an hour and a half earlier at night for the half an hour headways. And then on Saturdays, right now, we're doing hourly for both Saturday and Sunday, so we tighten those hours up a little bit to 7 to 8 p.m. on the weekends. The Whispering Oaks location is kind of difficult because that's a side shot. I guess it's kind of north to the right on that picture. And you turn off, that yellow line is the proposed crosswalk, which was just approved by Caltrans, is out to bid right now. And that whole driveway is where the trolley goes down to the end and uses that tight loop that always has cars parked in it and is difficult to turn around at. Goes back to the red point, picks up passengers at Whispering Oaks, and has to wait to get out in traffic there. The whole thing takes 4 or 5 minutes. We're proposing at this point, when we improve that crosswalk, which will be in the next few months here, that we go ahead and have people go back to the old crosswalk that used to be there. Proposed changes, all these changes we're proposing. The current service, the operating cost is $834. It would reduce to $793,000. The revenue would go from $77,000 up to $107,000. Our fare box recovery ratio would go from 9% up to 14%. Still doesn't hit the 20, but it's an efficiency factor that is what is being pushed for by VCTC as well as the county to show that we're doing everything possible to meet the goals of the fare box recovery efficiency ratio.
So are you asking for approval of those that recommendation?
So we're asking for your support to proceed with these changes as an outreach effort We have advertising in the newspaper and on the trolleys. We have meetings planned up in, the dates, I think, were, I had these here, let's see. We've got a Wednesday, let me see if I can read my own writing here. Yes, we have Wednesday, July 12th at 6 p.m., Thursday, July 13th at 2 p.m., so that's a night and an afternoon, and then Saturday, July 15th at 10 a.m. So we're hoping that way we catch daytime, nighttime, and a weekend for catching anybody who might be interested.
Where are you holding the meetings at, Greg?
Sorry?
Where are you holding the meetings
Here at
at?
City Council Chambers.
Is that in the report?
That's in the administrative report.
Okay, thank you.
It's on our website as well, and we'll be advertising that in the newspaper as well. And we'll have it in the trolley, and we'll have it posted up around town in Whispering Oaks and so on.
Okay, so this is your plan, and you want to have an outreach to let people comment on your plan, and you just want our approval to proceed.
Your approval to
With
proceed.
the outreach, not necessarily.
And then we'd like to come back on
Correct.
July 25th, and
Okay, I'll
and
make-
based on public input, look for possibly implementing the changes.
Okay, so at that meeting, at some point, I really want to discuss with you what I saw about the Ojai Valley Inn and brainstorm.
Okay, good.
About getting the hotels more involved. Okay, so I'll make a motion for what it is that you want for us.
We have one more, the city manager
Oh,
wanted
okay,
to
sorry.
weigh in here.
I apologize, Councilmember. Very briefly, I just wanted to state that right now, the trolley does not receive any funding from the general fund. I'm very concerned about any recommendation that would start to use general fund money to help pay for the trolley. I understand the importance of the trolley. That's not the issue here. But I'm concerned about the precedent that would set. So part of the recommendation is for staff to continue to explore if there would be some other ways that we could reduce or eliminate any proposed subsidy from the general fund. I would also like to perhaps follow up a little bit more on Councilmember Haney's comments to see if maybe there's some way that we could perhaps do a little further outreach with VCTC on this effort. Just very briefly, one of the driving forces behind this is the urban designation of the Ojai Valley. For those who didn't realize, you're living in an urbanized area, but apparently under those same rules, the communities of Santa Paula and Fillmore are considered to be rural.
Really?
So
How does that happen?
I'm waiting for the genie to come out of the bottle and
So
explain
you're
that
going
to
to
me.
explore the definition of urbanized.
I should highlight, we've already investigated that heavily. We went to the VCTC board last year when they were implementing this measure, and we had some traction, but unfortunately, the rules say that if your county's over 500,000, you can't do a mixed fare box ratio. It's locked in.
They're in
So-
the county.
So places like Lompoc and Santa Maria, they've got mixed
How about
ratios.
Santa Barbara and Fillmore here?
That's correct, sir.
They're in the county.
That's correct.
But the census defines them as a rural area, and if you look at the census from 2000, which was all fought at that time, there's urbanized area of Ventura, Oxnard Plain, and then it has a very narrow line following 33, and it pops open up in the Ojai Valley, and it's considered urbanized.
They have a
and-
higher population than we do.
Yeah, it's amazing, but we're considered
housing
part of that.
Could be density, too.
Yeah, they fought the whole thing, and
Okay.
Okay, I agree with the city manager. We should at least keep exploring that, but it may be,
yeah.
Understand it
may
may
be hopeless, but we'll,
maybe a point. Yeah, and I guess just one very last quick comment. It's a bit of a head scratcher for me because I'm not quite sure what the incentive here is for the trolley system. I mean, if it was, get more efficient or you're going to be penalized, but I think everybody recognizes that we've done everything we can to try and make this, to be as fiscally responsible and make this thing pay for itself. And then to kind of be told that, well, you don't meet the definition, you're an urbanized area, you don't have enough fare box ratio return, so we're going to make that better by penalizing you. It just seems to me it's almost working against the idea of trying to keep public transportation flush and functional.
is that a decision of the local transportation commission that, where
Yes,
you're
it was.
working, Brandon?
That was a decision made last year by VCTC, and at that time, we worked with Councilman Lara, who was on the board at that time, and Supervisor Bennett, and they pushed for it, as well as the councilman from Santa Paula, Girardi, I think her name is.
Ginger and
Ginger,
Girardi. Right.
And she...
So it's just a cost shift. They,
Correct.
They basically are standardizing the rules, because the Simi Valley was hit pretty hard with it. It seems like a different
okay.
area, admittedly,
okay,
but...
do we need a motion at this point to give direction to staff? Or
Yes, please.
Okay.
We have
okay.
recommendations on page 5.1.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion to consider recommendations for fare and service modifications to the Ojai trolley system. Do I do the whole?
Yeah, we can do all
one?
three of
Say
them,
1, 2,
can't we?
3.
And direct staff to perform public outreach on the proposed modifications outlined in this report and return with final recommendations to minimize loss of Transportation Development Act funds for implementation at a public hearing at the July 2025 City Council meeting, and direct staff to explore further options to reduce or eliminate any subsidy from the general fund.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion moved and seconded to accept all three recommendations under this item. Is there any further discussion? If not, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Blatz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
Yes.
Mayor Johnston?
Yes.
Councilmember Francina?
Yes.
Councilmember Haney?
Yes.
Okay, we're on item number 6, adoption of Complete Streets Master Plan. Just can't get rid of you, can we?
It's all yours,
Mayor,
Mr. Grant.
can,
I'm back,
can-
yeah.
Can I move that maybe we move 8 to ahead of 7 because of the number of participants that want to address us?
I would concur with that because I believe the council's already made a motion to start enforcing the existing ordinance as of July 1st.
Okay, so if there's no objection, we'll change the order. Okay, that would,
Number 8.
number 8. Okay, we are on number 8, and recommendation to provide direction to the city manager on the enforcement of the city leaf blower rules.
I'll keep it brief. I think we know the topic. As the Councilmember Blatz pointed out correctly, the direction is that we would begin enforcement July 1st. This is on for discussion and direction to staff. Briefly, we're recommending that we establish a public outreach campaign to inform the public about the resumption of enforcement. We've listed a number of ways that we would do that there. Also recommending that we would dedicate approximately 10 hours per month to the enforcement of leaf blowers. That would be with the assumption that we increase the hours for the code enforcement officer. And also direct the city manager to return to council after 3 months of enforcement with the staff's report and any recommendations for enforcement modifications. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay.
Also did want to quickly note that we did put a fact sheet together, which is in your packet on page 8-5, titled Leaf Blower Ordinance to be enforced starting July 1st, 2017. There's also a Spanish translated version of this, and they are both up on the city's website.
Yeah, I much appreciate that, because I have people to hand it out to. Thank you.
All right.
We all do.
Mr. Mayor, if I could inquire. Mr. Summers, this appears to be an agenda item strictly addressing the enforcement of the leaf blower rules and regulations that will go into effect on July 1st. However, it was my anticipation that this was going to be a continuation of an agenda item that had been continued from
March
February,
14th.
perhaps?
It was March 14th. And
March 14th.
you're correct that this item is just enforcement. We understood the direction from council, I believe the mayor put this on, that it would be, this item would be just enforcement. Sorry, council director, thank you, that this item would be the enforcement discussion. The separate item of whether to rewrite the ordinance itself remains on the table and is directed to come back by the first meeting, on or at the first meeting in September. I mean, I understand that the ad hoc committee.
That
is
was
still
not my
meeting.
understanding at the time that we voted on the enforcement. That was not my understanding at the time that we took the vote on the continuance. And I would strongly object to even bringing this enforcement motion forward before we continue with what we're actually going to be doing with the leaf blowers.
Okay, yeah, Paul's making a good point. I thought that what we were doing is bringing back Paul's original motion for further discussion. It had been tabled and continued in order to have some time to talk with the community, and it seemed like we talked with the community, and everybody has an opinion, not necessarily in agreement with each other. So Paul, I think a couple meetings ago, or maybe the last one, pointed out that because this was going to kick in, that he would like to have his motion considered before this happens. And there is some overlap between the two as to what's going to be enforced. And is that a topic that can be discussed tonight, or do we need to continue this
Well,
matter in order to put them both up?
The ordinance itself couldn't be discussed other than to be put on a future agenda tonight. In other words, if you wanted to continue the discussion based on the continued motion to look at rewriting the ordinance, that would have to be added on a future agenda. Again, staff understood the
well,
direction differently, but
okay,
clearly,
there-
what you want to accomplish can be done, not tonight.
Okay, so Paul's motion was to come back, and he and I both were under the impression it was coming back tonight, but that was maybe a misunderstanding.
I
So the way in which to, do what?
No, please finish.
What we said, it would be back within 6 months or sooner, and Paul pointed out that he'd like it sooner because of the potential conflict between the enforcement regs for the existing ordinance, one which I happen to support the enforcement of the existing laws rather than change it, but Paul's motion goes beyond that. There was more to it. So what do we have to do to bring the continued...
An approach would be to direct that staff take no action to enforce the ordinance, and then take put this, as is worded now, plus the ordinance itself on the agenda for the next meeting of July 11th, which would allow the council to, at the same time, consider whether to rewrite the ordinance and also consider enforcement, bearing in mind that it takes two meetings to approve the ordinance. So if you wanted to change the ordinance, if there were the votes to do so, then at that July 11th meeting, I'd recommend that you approve the ordinance as desired and then direct enforcement to start once it's effective.
Is it possible for the council to simply give direction to staff regarding the July 1, I think that was the deadline that Bill's motion said, but just simply direct staff to hold on that so we can bring these two things together?
Yes, absolutely. Definitely.
And so that there's at least, now if...
In other words, you don't have to enforce the current ordinance if you don't want to. You can direct staff not
to. Some of us feel like if it's on the books, we should do something about it, but there is a conflict here now, so I guess...
That's the choice before you, yeah.
So if we bring back at the next meeting, Paul's motion to be voted on, if that were to be successful, then we could continue the soft enforcement or the whatever until that works its way through. If it's not successful, then we can go ahead and give the direction to staff on how to proceed.
Correct.
Okay.
If the committee feels their work has been done, I don't think it'd be difficult at all to get that on for the 11th.
Okay, well, I think we should do it because all of the conversations I've had, all the parties involved from 3 or 4 different directions. There are 3 issues. There's the noise issue, there's the air pollution issue, and there's sort of the allergy particulate in the air and blowing stuff onto the people's property. And there are people who will meet in the middle, and there are people who are hard over on both sides. So we might as well just go ahead and bring the issues together and decide what we're going to do so that the staff knows what they should be enforcing. So,
in addition, Mr. Mayor, my motion includes certification and training and permits and all those things too.
Right.
And how do you enforce, let's assume for a moment that even if the overriding motion that I make is not approved, but some sort of blowers are approved, but we also approve the certification, permitting, training, well, how do you put something into effect to enforce that when that's not in existence right now?
I guess that presumes that there would be a desire on the part of the council to do all those things.
Or if the council were to decide that we weren't going to have leaf blowers at all, we're going to start enforcing something that is going to be taken away.
Right, well, if they were to go that motion hasn't been made.
No, it hasn't,
So far,
but I'm just saying.
We have the existing law that's been in place for, 20 years, that fundamentally says that you got to stay away from the residential areas with the gasoline engines, and you can use them in the commercial areas downtown. This other was trying to, I guess, a combining of things based on noise primarily. In the meantime, there's other considerations, so we just have to decide which considerations. I would assume that if we were continuing to enforce what exists, I think we need to work on that enforcement without getting into the highly sophisticated certification and stickers and everything. On the other hand, if that's not going to be what we do, then that would all come into play. So we would need to, the city manager is laughing. I don't know if it's because of the lateness of the hour or we're going in circles, but can we put this on the agenda? Of course, that's the question is what else is on that agenda? Everything, yeah. But at the next meeting, so that Paul's issue gets aired and voted upon.
I think if the committee feels they've done their work, I think we can just resume back up from when this discussion had last gone to council. I think council members' comments are correct in terms of what the potential enforcement would be. I don't know that we could say this at that point. We would need to see what direction the council gives, and maybe we would need a little time to then come back and develop that program depending on what it was there. For example, if you're looking to do the certification and all that.
Bill?
I just want to say that the intent of my motion to lift suspension as of July 1st was not necessarily to impose a lot of heavy-handed enforcement action as of July 1st, but to make the point that, you know, I can then go to the people that say work for me, give them the flyer and say, this is effective now. Please do it. And I think there's a lot of other people that would like the same thing. So I'm not necessarily saying we should put a lot of staff time into aggressive enforcement, but I don't want to lift the enforcement. So I want to keep the enforcement starting. I want to lift the suspension as of July 1, so that you know, it's a message that until we change it, we're going to apply what we got.
Yeah. So my question is.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. If we go with Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick's proposed motion, he hasn't made one yet, but what he proposes, that doesn't preclude what we're planning to do July 11th, right? We would still go to the next meeting.
Right. I mean,
There's no harm done in officially banning leaf blowers in gas-powered leaf blowers in residential neighborhoods,
gas.
Effective July 1st.
Yeah, the existing law is still on the books and will be enforced, but we're saying to the staff, as a courtesy to everybody, to let us put this on the agenda on the 11th so that it is given the hearing that Paul and Paul primarily, but I agree with him.
Okay.
We wanted to have that issue cleared, and the only way we can do that is to put it on for the next meeting, and, you know.
I can live with that a couple more weeks.
And my motion would not be to take no action.
Okay, yeah, so we're
With
taking.
respect to the recommendation.
We're just simply doing what we thought we were doing tonight on the 11th.
Okay.
Without.
But means that July 1st, I can give a flyer to somebody and say, we're enforcing, this is now operational, please comply. Especially if I'm employing them.
Mr. Mayor, Chair, Council, what you've described, Mayor, and what you've described, Mayor Pro Tem, are opposite. We need some direction from Council. You're saying wait till July 11th to do any enforcement. You're saying enforce now.
No, what I'm saying
We
is
would do whatever the
have
council
a motion
directs, but
that's
we need
passed.
direction.
We passed a motion.
Correct. And what's
It said
before
that
you
we're
now,
lifting suspension as of July 1.
that is
We don't have
correct,
to do
unless the
anything
council
to
changes it
change
now.
that. We don't have to do anything to change that.
That's correct, unless,
Nothing that stays in effect.
correct. And
And
then,
that also means we're not approving any of these additional enforcement resources. We're simply saying what we have done stands, without devoting any additional resources to it.
which would mean the city manager can use existing resources as he deems fit within his existing budgetary authority. Correct. And if the other members of council wish to change that direction, we would need direction to that effect.
Right, that's all I'm saying, is I'm suggesting we do nothing until we get, until the next opportunity to put the.
Which means begin enforcement July 1st.
Yes,
Okay.
in principle, yes.
I understand what you're saying. I'm trying to make it clear so that I'm not sure the rest of the council fully understands it.
Yeah, no change from the current motion, the current direction.
We're going to hear.
I understand what the Mayor Pro Tem is saying, and I just disagree with it. We did a motion. We said it going into effect July 1st. It was my understanding that prior to July 1st, the issue was going to be back before us. And I stand by that. And I think if you read the minutes, that's what our intention was. So I just disagree with it. I think we should suspend the enforcement until after July the 11th. And that would be my motion, and I'm going to make it.
Are we going to hear from the public?
We will before we're you know.
If there were cards, I'd suggest hearing from the public before you make any votes.
There is the anonymous Severo. I filled it for you.
Mayor Johnson, city council members, I'll try to make this brief, but I was approached by a group of gardeners this past weekend with the alternative to enforcement, and I was happy to do what they requested. I'm going to read hopefully a short letter asking for relaying to you their message to me. And there's a group of gardeners in the valley that are aware that the city plans to enforce the leaf blower ordinance. We are willing to help reach out to fellow colleagues so that we are all in compliance with the ordinance, but believe that there should be a phase-in period for about 3 months to purchase either electric or battery pack leaf blowers. We believe that this approach is a better strategy for several reasons. The first reason is cost. It would be more effective for fellow gardeners to talk to each other rather than spending city funds to enforce the recommended 10 hours a month. Other cities have struggled following up with violators because by the time they arrive, the violators are gone. The second reason is because this approach would offer more effective compliance. Gardeners will hold each other accountable and will be more receptive to the importance of this ordinance if they are given a reasonable amount of time to adjust. The third reason is that the approach allows a code enforcement officer to oversee other ordinances. We have a small town with lots of restrictions and limited staff. We have an opportunity to cooperate between professionals and cities to work together to change the current gardening equipment gradually, which is more realistic for everybody involved. We can also continue to provide the needed education in order to adapt to the new tools that are more environmentally friendly. And just to add on the caveat, when I met with the gardeners, it was just encouraging because not only were they bringing equipment that are battery-operated leaf blowers, but they were bringing equipment that were battery-operated weed whackers, chainsaws, etc. And I think that small group really realizes that the technology is there. It's just an expensive transition for them to take. And they've been doing research on ways to purchase these equipment, which is actually in July. There's several businesses that would give you the opportunity to buy one, get the other one free. So I think the transition is going to be there. It is evident to all the gardeners. It's just a matter of financing. So I understand the motion as Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick is putting it. Leaves the discretion to this city manager, but I think this is really an opportunity for the gardeners to really take this ordinance serious rather than fighting the city to do it. I think that we got a core group of gardeners that are willing to do the right thing. So just as another option, I know you guys you made previous decisions and I respect the process, but this is another option. So thank you.
Thank you, Severo.
Well, I think that was the reason we waited till July 1st, so that they would have this transition period. And I guess by setting a deadline, we've accomplished that now they're seriously considering it, but if I understand it, now they want more time. Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, our goal is compliance. We don't want to mess up people's lives. So whatever works ultimately.
I guess I'll just. This is not speaking legalistically, but I can see where Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick is saying the law is the law and it's on the books, which is true, and it's always been, right along with how high a fence can be in the front yard and a lot of these other things and the sign ordinance. And I don't see our city manager and the city staff, just chomping at the bit to rush out and issue citations to people. So it seems like if we've got a couple of weeks, put this on
all right, we'll do
the next agenda, and I think everybody understands what we're saying. If there's somebody who is a big scofflaw out there that's really annoying a neighbor, by all means, but I haven't seen that kind of enforcement very effective up to this point, so I wouldn't expect to see it in the next couple of weeks. And it seems like both parties get kind of what they're asking for. Randy?
So Mayor, I'd like to just talk to the fact that there's an opportunity here in the community. And I've seen, again, I'm one of the main people that's changed my mind on the direction of where we should go as a community. And I think right now, acting heavy-handedly towards this group of individuals isn't going to win them over. It sounds like they've actually recognized that there is an opportunity. I think what you've done with the Ventura County Air Quality Board and seeking $60,000 in funds, and prior to tonight, I was thinking of addressing an additional $60,000 in our budget this year to actually purchase equipment and to start doing some type of a trade-in to encourage the maintenance people in our community to actually start thinking this way. So I think there's an opportunity here, and I do agree with the fact that, a law is a law, and if you're speeding, you get a speeding ticket, and if you run a stop, you get a stop. But they're reaching out to us, and I think we should reach out to them. And I think there's an opportunity for this community to really change and grow and really move this ball forward a lot faster than I think any of us thought 2 months ago, 4 months ago, or even 6 months ago.
I agree with that. There's nothing that would preclude me, I got my instructions not from the government code, but from my spouse. And so I am complying. But I was talking to a friend over at Persimmon Hill, and he said a year or two ago, he simply told the contractor he was working with, this is what I want on my property. In fact, he demanded a vacuum. He wouldn't accept the other stuff. But I think we always have the choice of what we order and to ask the contractor to do that, or a person providing the service, and then maybe by mid-July we can clarify where we go from here.
And even though at the time I voted for the extension, for us to do some more investigation, but I think that this time has been very good, and I think it's been very good for the community. I have spoken to, 30 or 40 gardeners in town that have reached out to me to talk to me about the issues with regard to leaf blowers. And I do believe, as Councilman Haney said, and as Savaro said, I sense this buy-in to what we're going to do, particularly if it ends up being electric, because I think that they've been educated more into the electric end of it. I don't sense a buy-in if we were to ban blowers. But if we were to go with the electric, I do sense this really close-knit community of gardeners accepting it and actually almost self-policing it as we move forward. If we take our time, we give them a little more time to recycle their equipment and things like that. Now, I'm not in that business. I can only go on what I'm being told, but Savaro is, and Randy knows people, even though he's not in that business. And I think that putting it on the next agenda item, deciding how we're going to go with this, and then sticking to it at that point, not having any reservation about it, is really the proper way to go. And I think as Councilman Haney said, we really do have an excellent opportunity in our community to reach out to a segment that most of the time I think feels like we're fighting against them.
I'd also like to share the word comprehensive is my sense of where we can go as a community, and that's to actually look at the ordinance that was passed when Sousa's first term on council, and look at that era and where we are today, and the fact that this equipment, we did the demonstration. I actually went last week to South Pasadena, and I went to the golf facility, and I'm telling you, they're ahead of the curve. They've got 60-inch riding mowers. They've got electric greens mowers. They're on top of it. And it's the same thing. If the city can do that and lead the way, if we can demonstrate that we want to do it, whereas in most cities exempt themselves. You all do it, we're going to do it the old way. Now we can demonstrate that we're willing to do it, we're going to show you how to do it, and we're going to try and share the cost with you, and we're going to work together. And I think that's the goal. So that's where I'd like to see us go, and I don't know if 2 weeks is enough time, but I'm willing to go to the next council session.
Okay, well, we are unable to do anything on your motion.
No.
Apologies.
Is there a
that it-
motion on the table?
No, no.
Is there a motion?
No, they-
I
well,
mean-
the- no,
Then we
his-
have to move
the
to
motion was
next meeting.
continued, but it didn't get noticed properly on tonight's agenda.
My motion is to suspend the enforcement until at least after the 11th of July.
Oh, that's okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Yeah, okay.
Wait, there's
Is there a second?
cards, there's
Yeah.
cards.
Uh,
Before we,
Yeah, okay, we've just been talking amongst ourselves. Come on down, guys, yeah.
Well, we now have a seconded motion on the table, right?
Yeah.
But
well-
can
We do have to
vote
take the
after
cards that were submitted
No,
before.
I know, so we should.
Right.
But we can open the public hearing with the motion on the table?
And there's no public hearing, so yeah, you can take the comments.
Take comments on the motion.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion that Paul has made is to extend the suspension of the existing.
I understand the Councilmember Blatza's motion to extend suspension enforcement through July 11th pending further council action,
Okay.
which would be, and the second was by Councilmember Haney. That's what I understand.
Okay, so then we listen to the comments because that, from the public.
Yeah, the public may change your mind.
Okay, Jay Simon.
Jay Simons, council members, mayor, we've spoken on this many times. I want to give a little more of a personal account this time. I was, as you know, I'm a trolley driver. I spent a lot of time in Whispering Oaks, which I like. I was talking with one of the Whispering Oaks residents there. They have, over the years, fought a very difficult battle against leaf blowers. They have written Julia Bromley, Steve Bennett, the city manager here, and eventually the existing administration then said no more blowers there. They got their current gardening service to not use blowers at all, because a lot of the residents there are elderly, they are disabled, they have a lot of breathing problems. They were blowing right up to their doorways. It was a terrible thing. So anyway, when Whispering Oaks redid their hardscape, they hired a new landscaping service, and they're right now right back using leaf blowers again. Same problem, right up to the doorways. And so this resident who was telling me this story said, well, I called the administrator, I guess the HUD administrator, the affordable housing, and he said, I'm sorry, the city of Ojai does not limit leaf blowers. We'll use leaf blowers until they say something. So it's right back to the same thing. I mean, I really appreciate all the discussion we've had, a lot of the effort that's gone into this, a lot of the new stuff, new technology is great, but I think we really need to do something. I think we need to enforce at least what we have on the books as soon as we can. Lord knows we would like that, but that's just the way it is. But please enforce.
Thank you, Jay. Hank?
Mayor, Councilman, Mr. Reich, Mark, I agree with you. This has been going on for 3 years. 3 years. And there wasn't a problem before that until we suspended the enforcement. All this got stirred up when we suspended enforcement. Let's enforce the ordinance and see what happens. You won't get much flack if the gardeners will just start playing ball. We played ball, the city of Ojai played ball with the gardeners for 3 years. We stepped back, they had the run of the place. Now let's enforce it. We're not being overbearing on them. We're just enforcing what we should.
Thank you. Sherry Ann, Kate?
Well, I have to say, after dealing with this since the 90s, that this has been like a roller coaster. First we're here, then we're there, then we're back where we were before. 3 years, ago, it was to ban them. Oh, no, let's suspend it. 3 of you on this council in, I think it was October of last year, voted to ban all leaf blowers. Unanimous, the whole council said, oh yeah, let's ban them all. Then it all got turned around again. Now I'm hearing, oh, we're gonna maybe enforce it. Well, maybe we won't. Maybe we should give the gardeners some more time. This is a trust issue. I wanna trust you guys, I really do. But I've seen it all, I've heard it all, and now it's time for action. Sorry, you know, we've been living with this for a very long time, and the village mixed-use area is absolutely the worst. Every single day of the week, and especially on Thursday, there are fumes of the stuff blowing all over, and people drive right through them. They're coming in our windows. The noise is horrific. Everybody hates the leaf blowers. It's time to enforce. You know, the way it's set up, you're not going to be giving them fines right away. Like Mr. Wyrick said, you're going to be giving them, you're going to hand them something that says, this is what will happen if you don't start thinking about changing your equipment. It's not like they're going to get fined right away. And by the way, I do think that trade-ins is a great idea. The city's going to be saving a lot of money now because they're getting these free battery pack things. You're not going to be spending money on equipment. Help these guys with the trade-ins, you know, and there's discounts available, you know, manufacturers' discounts. You could reduce the cost of these guys a lot. So I'm running out of patience. I want to believe you. I want to see something happen, like enforcement. Thank you.
Okay. Casey? Counselor? Okay. Michael Shapiro?
Michael Shapiro, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Yes, the time has come to do something and to have enforcement. Some time ago, at another meeting on this subject, I believe I mentioned the fact that there happens to be an amazing, inexpensive app that the City of Santa Monica uses. It was developed by Gov Apps, a company up in Silicon Valley that developed this for municipalities at a great discount as well, where any person, any citizen in the city, if he sees a lawn blower, that's gas blower or whatever, and it's violating an ordinance, they just take a picture of their cell phone. It automatically goes to the police department or whatever department is designated to be the enforcing entity with the picture, with the GPS location and the telephone number of the person calling in that complaint. They don't even have to, the authorities or enforcers don't even have to act at that moment because it's there. It's there. The record is there. And the people in Santa Monica that I spoke to at the planning department of the city of Santa Monica, it's been incredibly successful. It actually cuts down the time that police or other officials from the city have to go out and do what they do and chase things. And by the time they get there, it's no longer happening anymore. It just completely solves a problem. And I'd like the opportunity to have that app demonstrated. I could do it on a slideshow here at the next company. It's really great. It's not expensive. And the time has come at some point, we have to really think about banning blowers altogether. I mean, the science is in. It's decided. The science is there. This is a poisonous, toxic mix of stuff, whether it's being blown by a battery-operated or electric-operated machine or a gas machine. The gas we know is much worse. The two-cycle engines are absolutely lethal. And, you know, I see it all the time. You know, the operators and the owners of landscape companies, for the most part, I don't see that they're supplying their workers with the Class 3 respirators that are necessary to take out the very small micron size particulate matter that lodges in lungs. These are just lethal things. So the truth is, on my property, and it's a sizable property to upkeep, we've been using a broom and a dustpan for the last 2 years, and my landscape maintenance people say it absolutely takes less time because over the days that we sweep, we're not blowing it from here over to there, and within a couple of hours of traffic, it blows back again. We're literally getting rid of it and putting it in my green waste basket, and it's gone. And the maintenance week after time is much less. It's actually much less. So we have to be rational about this. We have to ban blowers, period, for the sake of our health. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I saw someone in the back of the room that looked like they'd like to speak, but I don't have a card, but that's okay. You don't have to, just tell the clerk what you...
Yeah, my name is Ashley Osler. Good evening. Thank you for hearing all of this information tonight. Whether we go ahead and enforce as of July 1st or in 3 weeks or in 3 months, I think it's really important that we all work together to get the information out to not only homeowners but also to the gardeners about the different discount programs that I've talked about now 3 times here. And also recommendations of what equipment works well, because the saddest situation would be for somebody who can afford it, a gardener, who goes to get some crappy battery-operated something or electric something that's just not going to, it's going to fail him because it's too loud or it's still putting up too much dust or whatever it is. There's so much research that has been done amongst all the people in this room, and I think that we have to put that together in some informational way that would help the laborers make decisions about what to buy, especially if the enforcement comes in right now. It would be great to have that information along with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have a contact information from you, ma'am?
I think I've given it before, and I'd be happy to do that again.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Okay, I guess that's
Okay.
it. Back to council.
Yeah.
We have a motion.
What,
In a second.
I have decided not to support the original motion, the motion that's presently on the table in response to the people that just spoke, because the truth is, originally, I think we were going to enforce June 1st, and then we postponed it to July 1st to give the gardeners time. I don't think enforcing the current ordinance precludes what we ultimately need to do, and it'll send the right message to the community. I also am reminded of the letters I've received from the people at Whispering Oaks, and I feel that if I don't support enforcement July 1st, as Mayor Pro Tem William Wyrick originally proposed, I would be failing the people at Whispering Oaks and others who are directly affected, and they've suffered enough. I feel like we have been patient. I think we can still work, as Councilmember Haney said, put so well. We can still all work together, even if we begin enforcement as of July 1st. To me, enforcement means beginning education. That's what enforcement to me means. It doesn't mean being heavy-handed. No one's, as long as that's all it means, I'm all for it. I'm really fed up with gardeners who say that the city of Ojai doesn't ban gas, they're polluting equipment. I'm fed up with that.
Okay.
They're ruining it for the other ones who want to, cooperate.
Any further comment? If not, we'll call the roll. Clerk, please.
Councilmember Blatz?
Yes.
Councilmember Francina?
No.
Councilmember Haney?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
No. Ditto Souza's comments.
Mayor Johnston?
No. Okay. Well, we do have the other motion or the other action scheduled for our next meeting. I think it's been made pretty clear that we need to educate everybody as to what's coming, just like you did on the sign ordinance. And
Mr.
depending
Mayor,
on what happens on the
on
11th.
just a point of order.
Okay, Paul.
Item number 8 has not been continued, so we need to act on it. It's more than just enforcing. There's 3 parts to this, and now we need to take that up and deliberate over it.
You want to make a motion, Councilmember Wyrick?
Well, we do if there's a motion. I don't know.
I'll make a motion that we proceed with recommendation A. And that's it.
Is there a second to that?
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded. Discussion?
I have a question. What does item B mean, dedicate approximately 10 per month
Wait,
to the
this is just
enforcement?
A.
Hmm?
The motion is only for A, is that correct?
Yeah, but I've got a question on B.
Oh, sorry.
Discussion, yeah, right.
So that would be to establish to the city manager a level of priority in terms of the number of hours that the code enforcement staff would
Oh,
would be
10 hours?
dedicated.
It just says 10 per month. That's 10 hours per month?
Oh, I apologize. It says,
Mine says 10 hours.
Mine says hours.
Mine
per
says
month.
10 hours.
Yeah, see, mine says 10 per month.
Yeah. Yeah, you
I had the
lost
same-
your hours.
I had the same one too in another handout.
I lost your
I had the
hours.
same question, Paul, but it.
Yeah, you guys are
Mine here
special.
says 10 hours
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, no, mine says 10 per
Mine
month.
says hours, so, yeah.
Yeah, mine says
That's
hours.
unusual.
How did that happen?
How did that happen?
10 on 10, Paul.
All right, so yeah, so it's at the, all right, so my motion stands.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any further discussion on it? If not,
Seconded.
call, what?
I second
You
it.
seconded?
I
Oh,
second it, yeah.
Okay, roll.
Councilmember Francina?
Yes.
Councilmember Haney?
Yes.
Councilmember Blatz?
Yes?
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
Yes.
Mayor Johnston?
Yes. Okay,
Mayor Johnston?
yes.
In light of timeliness issues and time, I think we should take up item number 9 rather than the master plan issue, because I know there's people here wanting to speak to number 9, and the Planning Commission was very concerned that we take it up.
Okay, that's an extra, was that an add-on? I
That
don't-
was
I
the
don't have
add-on.
a-
9 was the,
Okay, well,
Sign
You didn't
ordinance.
get a 9.
yeah, yeah,
9 was the sign ordinance, for those
Right.
that don't have the number in front of them.
What about
9 was
what
the,
happened
can
to
I
the-
read it?
Oh.
yes, that was emailed
Oh,
out to you.
before we do that, we may go to that, but where are we? The other item is lengthy, but do we have a lot of people still waiting on that one, or
I don't
can we
think so.
carry that one forward?
Complete streets, I don't want, we asked the public.
Yeah.
Is there any,
Anyone here on complete streets that,
here, public, we're asking you a question, public. We're asking the
out there.
public a question.
we're looking for feedback?
I printed it.
We're thinking of reorganizing
I also
the
have the
agenda.
original.
Is there anyone here for complete streets? Can we wait on that till the?
Okay, let's take number 9. Go, Bill.
Well, I'll just read it. It's the consideration of suspension of enforcement of the City of Ojai's existing sign regulations. It was put on here at the request, I believe, of councilpersons Haney and Francina.
That's correct.
And I just want to make sure the item was taken up. I don't, yeah, I have some thoughts on it, but you guys put it on there, so.
Yeah, where is it?
Okay, I'm still trying to find the new agenda
Okay.
that didn't have 9 on
I
mine.
didn't have
I
it
have
either.
it here, yeah.
I'm sure I got it sent to me, but I
Well, I
just,
have 9, but I didn't have hours.
Okay,
Was there any summary with 9?
yeah.
Yes.
Should we let
It
city
is
manager
it is
speak?
duly appropriate to pick it up. It was noticed.
Yes, it was. It's
Yes.
fully noticed.
Yes.
It's fully on your agenda.
And I just thought it was important. I know there's some
Email it
people
out
in
to
the
you.
audience that are concerned about it. I'm going to, I have some thoughts about a targeted approach, but I'm not the one that asked for it to be on here, so.
okay, whoever did go.
Okay. Do you want us to explain?
Perhaps. I'm
Or
sorry.
the city
interrupt.
manager first?
Maybe
Yeah.
him, yeah.
And we have some public comment, I believe, as well.
Okay.
Well, again, I was asked to put this on the agenda, and because of the timeliness of the issue, I felt that it was important to get it on the next agenda. So we're simply asking for council to discuss the matter and give direction to staff. And again, this is about to consider suspension of enforcement of the city's existing sign ordinance, Article 16 of Chapter 2 of Title 10, including the existing prohibition on sandwich board and other portable signs. So again, the staff was directed to target enforcement beginning June 1st, and I know I've given you some reports on that. We've not issued any citations to date or fines. We've tried to do the education outreach effort and try to gain people's cooperation that way. And then, of course, I understand that there were several people that spoke at the most recent Plan Commission meeting expressing their concerns with the enforcement effort.
Okay. My understanding is there were
Yeah, I apologize. We emailed that out to you folks,
yeah,
and,
I have it.
and my understanding was that the council did not want to be getting a lot of that stuff on the dais the night of, if it had been previously emailed. So if council wants to go back to having hard copies, we're
Yeah.
more than happy to provide those as well.
Okay.
Okay, well, it's now on here, and we do have people that want to talk to us. Is that the staff reports
Yes,
done?
sir.
Okay, then we need to hear from the comment before we ask for a motion. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to talk on the sign ordinance? Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Adam Gallegas. My wife and I own Revel Kombucha Bar. We are located in the southeast corner of the arcade parking lot, if you can picture the parking lot directly across from the farmer's market. We don't have any street frontage, and we also don't have any signs that we're presently allowed to have street front. Our location's been described as difficult to find even if you're looking for it. But that said, we receive a tremendous amount of enthusiasm for our store and for our products when people do find us. We've been overwhelmed with the enthusiasm, quite frankly. The thing is, many people have come across our business because of a sandwich board sign that we were using to describe our offerings. And, I made the naive mistake of, when we began leasing our space, I saw some other sandwich boards around town, and I thought that was a great solution to overcome our somewhat hidden location. And, in fact, it had been working quite well until we, were delivered by hand a notice from a gentleman a few weeks back who told us that we needed to remove the sign by 3 p.m. or we'd be subject to fines. And so we complied. And it was like, someone turned the knob on our business. It went from a steady stream to a slow trickle. And, when we reviewed the numbers after, that week of compliance, we actually found that our gross revenue had dropped by 50% as a result of using these signs. And that was during a week, when we had the music festival. So it should have been a really good week for us, quite honestly, and it really wasn't. And that not only affects our ability to make a living, it affects the amount of staff that we can employ. It affects the products that or the raw materials we're able to purchase from local vendors, and it also affects taxable revenue. And I understand if you feel like it's taking away from the small town charm because there's too many signs. And I think a good solution to that would possibly be to assign some sort of fee to the use of the signs, maybe an annual fee, and weed out the folks that don't really need them, that just thought it was a cheap form of marketing. But have that available for a business like ours who really does depend on it. And if it's more an issue of safety, well, let's look at maybe how we can revise how it's restricted. Keep it out of a public walkway, or keep it out of a road, of course. But not just take a sledgehammer to it and tell everyone they can't use them. And and even if you have it on private property, that's illegal type of thing. So I just would like you to please give it some additional consideration, and please consider businesses like ours that really depend on being able to get the word out about what we're offering to the folks that live here and the folks that are visiting here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address the council? Okay, well, let's bring it back up.
I'm ready to offer a motion, but
I just wanted to add, at the Planning Commission meeting, there were other speakers, and I'm sure that, they just couldn't sit through another meeting. But I became concerned when I received the letter from Kelly Pasco, whose signs are on private property, and they're obviously not, his business is helped by those signs. A number of other business owners have approached me. I've had calls and emails. And the reason Councilmember Haney and I wanted to put this on the item on an already put this on the agenda on an already busy night is because the Planning Commission, as our city manager states, the Planning Commission is currently considering sign regulation amendments as previously directed by the City Council. The Planning Commission is next scheduled to hold a public hearing on the proposed sign regulation amendments on July 5th, And then they support unanimously recommend, the Planning Commission at last Wednesday's meeting unanimously recommended suspending enforcement of the portable signs until the Planning Commission considers the sign regulation amendments and makes a recommendation to the council. So the suspension period, before we work on the actual ordinance, I think would be about a month. And I think that seems fair, especially for the summer. That seems reasonable.
Well, I want to make a motion for a very targeted enforcement suspension, extremely targeted,
Okay,
not in general.
okay.
Okay? The motion will be to suspend the enforcement of Municipal Code 10-2.1607K. I have a copy here that I'll read K. K says portable signs, including A or T frame sandwich board signs located on parkways, parking areas, public or private property, sidewalks or structures unless approved by the Planning Commission in compliance with Section 10-2.1601, 1610. My motion is going to be to suspend the enforcement of 10-2.1607K except for signs in the pedestrian path of travel.
I second that motion.
Discussion?
That's very good.
I find it interesting that we can enforce an ordinance with a motion on the table, yet we don't want to enforce a sign code that's been in existence for years and years and years. I find it absolutely at odds with one another. And I think we should enforce it to the hilt.
I understand that. I thought the same thing, that it was a little bit ironic. But this sign, my understanding is that the sandwich, the current regulations governing sandwich boards dates back to 1970. And I'm not asking for a 10-year suspension like with the leaf blowers. I'm suggesting that a 1-month suspension until it comes before us, it's going to come before us in a month, is a reasonable request by the businesses that depend on this. I think that's reasonable. But I see the irony of it, Councilmember Blatz.
And I'm not against the sandwich boards.
Okay.
I just find it ironic.
Yeah.
Well, that was definitely ironic in
Yeah.
the juxtaposition. Let me ask a question of the city manager. I was unaware that there was any suspension of sign enforcement. It just sort of faded away, or the staff was not doing it. Is that incorrect?
No, that's a correct assessment. I'm not aware that there was any direction to back off or suspend enforcement. I think it was like a lot of things in the city. It just was not being given priority for quite some time.
Okay, so that being the case, why not, I guess I kind of recoil at this idea of saying, well, we don't want to suspend enforcement of laws. At least that's what I say. I don't want to see suspension of laws on the books and then turn around and call it a suspension. But there never was a suspension on this law, and the reason the staff is in the position they're in is that we asked them to pay attention and to do something, and they're doing a good job. Now I think we simply ask the staff, let's provide a grace period to allow us to do our job in the Planning Commission without any suspension of anything. Just, sort of in a way, call off the dogs, or actually tell him, say, continue to educate, and now we've just been educated by this individual who has a unique situation. There are other unique situations. This is probably the most compelling one. The other people maybe not as urgent, but while we're solving the one that's compelling, we may solve all of them, giving the Planning Commission a chance to operate without us, going on record and giving direction that we have laws that we don't enforce. I'm with Paul on that. Either we do or we don't.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to defend my motion by saying that I think it's, I've heard the businesses, I understand that, but it's also important, in my opinion, when you have a path of travel that's designated for people that are handicapped.
Yeah.
And we should not have sandwich boards on a handicap ramp for example.
Oh, no, I totally agree with
Let's
that
add that-
part.
let's
I'm-
add that.
That's why I made the motion.
Okay,
Let's
no,
add that.
part of
Can
your
we add
motion,
that
I
too?
like it, but I
Yeah,
was
that's
thinking we do
good.
it as a grace period. We should be, we should have all along been protecting it just as a matter of liability, not to have things out there that you stumble over in the middle of the arcade. But this situation sounds to me like that if they move their sign to a place that's safe for everybody on private property, and we get this thing through the planning commission and find out what is our long-term solution.
That's what
gonna
this
be.
motion does.
That's what this does, yeah. It's not,
I guess I'd like to hear the motion again, because I misunderstood it.
The motion is that we suspend enforcement of municipal code 10-2.1607K, except for ART frame sandwich board signs located in a pedestrian path of travel.
Okay, so that means to me that it will be in the way.
Well, no, we will
No.
not suspend enforcement if it's in the way.
if it's deemed to be unsafe, if a pedestrian could trip on it, or, it's.
Well,
that, to
pedestrian
me,
path of travel has
we have to
very
use some common, yeah.
The hour is growing late, and it
Yeah,
seems to me that
let's-
some common sense.
that's common
with
sense.
Just a little encouragement by this council to the staff, please use your common sense out there. We have a situation where we don't want to have people tripping over stuff, so that part we should continue educating and enforcing. But we've had a grace period for Lord knows how long when my good buddy Ron Polito and others had their, what I referred to as their bed sheet hanging off the side of the building. He was great. He got it down immediately. But we didn't do anything about that. So why do we pick on one that actually affects business? Can't we just do that at the staff level without us having to?
Your city manager clearly understands the direction and desire of the council tonight.
On the other hand, I don't want this to be the reason for my motion is if there's a sandwich board located in a curb cut ramp, handicap ramp, I don't want them to say, oh, you've suspended enforcement, you can't make me move it. No,
That's important, yeah.
that's the reason for my motion.
Understood, and I would go so far as to even say tentatively, broadly, if it was something else that was not allowed within the pedestrian path of travel, that we would also make an effort to
Yeah.
talk to them and get them to move that or comply. We understand.
So this comes under one of those headings, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Huh?
Well, let's vote.
Well,
But I just find it is ironic that we sit here and we're picking and choosing.
But
if-
there's a time limit.
Excuse me. Okay. So what I find interesting.
Can't we just do
If
it-
Steve Quillisi was here, and this is who I really.
Yeah, right, picking winners.
Steve would be saying, you're picking winners and you're picking losers. So, I'm not gonna, first of all, I agreed to bring this because of this gentleman's, story and a number of the other ones that I heard at the planning session. And I agree that we need to do something, I don't know if the best term is stop enforcement, but maybe we just don't talk about it until we actually make some decision and it comes back to council. So to me, it can go either way. I can go with Bill on his special K, or I can go with the thing that we don't care about. It doesn't matter to me, whatever we do is we don't want to
well,
impact
the
our
problem I
community.
have with selective enforcement
Right.
is there could be somebody else out there with an illegal sign, and we're going to enforce against them. Yet, we're not going to enforce against somebody with an illegal sandwich board.
Right.
How is that fair? Maybe that sign is every bit as important to that guy's business as the sandwich board. And how do you say a sandwich board is great on the back of the arcade, but it's not all right in the front of the arcade?
Okay,
It
but-
becomes very difficult to police it.
Right, but isn't it possible that we just say that for the time being, we've gone all this period without enforcing anything, that instead of everybody getting panicky, say that those people who have sandwich boards for the time being on their own property till this clears up, we're not going to do anything. We're going, we don't need to suspend anything. It's
But-
on their own property. We don't want it in the public right of way where people are.
But the motion says.
Right, but I'm not even sure that this gentleman has it on his own property.
But he
I
didn't
believe
say-
his is
no,
on
I
the
suspect he could move
city's
it.
My
property.
motion says pedestrian path of travel.
That's right, it
That's all
doesn't say your
says.
own property.
That's exactly right.
Because any of the sandwich boards in the arcade are not on their own
Let's
property.
vote on the motion.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any other comment?
I would just say that his sandwich board signs are so attractive that they would pass
Okay.
our stringent ordinance. They are so,
If you're
they
the
add,
most-
they enhance the town.
Okay, right, but we're not giving special exceptions for beauty pageants in the sign business, but that's nice, okay. We're going to vote.
We're voting on Bill's motion.
On Bill's
Yes.
motion, he's entitled to a vote.
Councilmember Blatz?
No.
Councilmember Francina?
Yes.
Councilmember Haney?
Yes.
Mayor Johnston?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Wow, we beat that
I'm
horse to
okay with
death,
the
huh?
pretty signs and all that, but I think we
Just
got to
don't
come
put
up
it in the
with
middle of
a
the
better
sidewalk.
solution. I agree.
No.
Okay.
A better
What you've
solution
been
was
doing
not
is great.
presented to us.
Yeah,
That's true.
you've been
That's
doing
true.
great.
You are
Thank
correct.
you.
Okay, let's go, what do we got left on here that, before,
You got 5 minutes?
Items 6 and 7 are still on your table.
well, we're not going to get through complete streets very quickly, and if there's nobody here for, can we continue that one and go on to the state?
Yeah.
Move to receive and file a report on item number 7.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and second, any discussion? If not, no objection, so ordered. Okay, we got number 9 taken care of, we've got,
Mr. Mayor, I'm willing to make a motion to continue item number 7, or excuse me, number 6, unless there's people here wishing to speak.
Second.
anybody wishing to speak? No? Okay, it's moved and seconded that we continue item number 6. Is there urgency on that one? I know that it's been going on forever, but give the city manager a little latitude on the agenda as to how much we're jamming into July 11th, but, okay, you're continuing without specifically when we schedule.
Unless the city manager wants me to add a specific date.
Why don't we just say-
Anything other than July 11th.
Okay, I will,
the
part of my
earliest
motion,
date.
I will say it, that the mayor and the city manager can decide the best time to have it placed on the future agenda.
Okay.
Second.
I just want to know that if this is he's gone, but does this city manager, will this jeopardize any of the grants, the funding that Greg Grant needs to implement the plan? That's my only concern.
I hear Mr. Grant coming. Mr. Grant,
Oh, good, he's still here.
I know I could see through
I
walls.
think
but you-
he has a duplicate.
Can you get by with that?
No, we could either knock it out now quickly if you want, or we could bring it back later. Won't
The
jeopardize
question
any
was if
grants.
there was any grant funding jeopardized if we didn't take action tonight.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so Paul's motion to continue was seconded. Any further comment? If not,
No comment.
any objection? So ordered. Thank you. Okay, now we got what left? The usual,
Council member.
Yeah,
city
council
manager,
reports.
Future agenda.
yeah. Guess we go with the council reports first. Anybody got, Paul, you have anything? Bill?
Yes, actually. Again, with very clear deference that it was not a city council meeting, nevertheless, two of us, along with Dale Hansen, presented a perspective on Chaparral School repurposing. I won't belabor the point except that we had a great turnout. I would say, 40, 50 people?
No, 70 signed in, maybe there were 80.
There were 70, 80
It was
people there?
packed.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Um,
And Councilmember Haney came.
Yes, and every school board member,
Yeah.
I believe, was there at one point or another. I think it provoked a lot of discussion in the community, a lot of focus on a broader perspective than just a school district perspective. We presented a lot of information. A lot of people want more information, want to continue what amounts to kind of a charrette process. And I think we really tapped into something there, the three of us. And I just really, we're going to be meeting this week about coming up with some other thoughts about what to do next. But I think that there's clearly a real sense of vision and a lot of talent in the community wanting to articulate a vision of how to repurpose this property right in the heart of our neighborhood, that actually, or heart of our city, that is actually was part of our City Beautiful movement. That it was only about 10 years after Mr. Libby's actions with respect to the founding of Ojai, This property dates back as a part of the educational and civic life of the community, older than Ojai, beginning in the 19th century. There's a lot of historical issues associated with it that are very important, and I just look forward to those of us that want to provoke more of a discussion of this, and look forward to the taking up the recommendations of the Historic Preservation Commission sometime in July. So that's one thing that I just wanted to say very quickly.
Just add to that for a moment?
Yes.
Planning Commissioner Raymond Powers videotaped the meeting.
Yes.
So anyone interested can watch it. We'll post it on Facebook and maybe even on we'll post it so that it's accessible. And I just wanted to make sure the council saw the letter from, we had a number of letters, but one from Jules Weisman that I thought she did a great job describing. You can read it, but the summarizing the meeting actually was very good.
So given the time and the hour, that'll be enough.
Yeah, but you did a great job in your 15-minute presentation, orientating people. That was exceptional. That alone is worth watching.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
No, he did. It was excellent.
Thank you for your efforts.
We
to
had
get that
handouts. We were
happen.
on top of it. Thanks.
Okay, do you have any else on report?
No, not on council.
Randy, do you? Okay,
It's enough, yeah.
we're all
So,
done?
yeah,
Yeah,
can wait.
okay. Okay, I
Thank
don't
you.
have- So then we go to city manager?
Oh, I just want to we have to thank Greg Grant for
Want me to
turning
go?
on the misters.
Yes, thank you,
misters.
Greg. And we have to thank Ms. Davis for finding the long-lost agreement with the sheriff's
Yeah.
department, too, so.
Absolutely.
She's not telling us how she got it, and we're not asking many questions, so.
I think they should give her a job down at the sheriff's office as a detective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An investigator.
Yeah.
Just very briefly, obviously, next week is the 4th of July. All city offices will be closed. On Tuesday, the 4th, we will be open, however, on Monday as well as on Wednesday. So regular hours on the week will just be closed on Tuesday. We are scheduled to sign the documents tomorrow, the closing documents for the purchase of the land at 205 Grand. So I'm scheduled to sign those documents tomorrow and probably be closing a few days within that.
Yes.
Also wanted to announce that Matthew Winiger, he was here this evening, but he has since stepped out. He is now the city's interim community development director. I will be putting together a plan for the recruitment to fill that permanent position. Just want to let you know where we are on that. And that is my report. And obviously, we have some items for future agenda items to discuss as well.
Mayor John, I do have some questions on the city manager report.
Okay, I just had a quick question. Do we ever get the situation with the sound arch resolved?
I know we're working on a solution for that. I haven't checked in with staff today.
Okay.
I think they're trying to get a meeting of I believe it was the public art jury that had worked on the Trimpin proposal. I believe they were trying to get them together to give some weigh-in on the solutions. We understand that there's a lot of concern both with the way that we currently have it operating, the signage. I know there's also concerns with the ability of people to be able to turn a switch off during events, which is a bypass switch. So we understand that those are the concerns, and that there's a real desire to get a permanent solution so that we can get that back up and running again as it was intended.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Bill?
I have some other items when we get to future agenda items, but on city manager report, I'd like to express a concern about the situation with the cannabis licenses.
Okay.
I don't understand first of all, the length of time needed for background checks. Those are generally quite something you can do those fairly quickly. I have to admit, I had a little concern over hearing that there really wasn't a community representative in the interview panel.
Well, we tried, and that person pulled out about a week before, and we made some efforts to get it filled, and we were not able to find an industry representative. So
And
that was my intent, and I was a bit dismayed that we were not able to pull that off, but
Right.
we really made the effort.
And under the circumstances, we had Sheriff's Department participating in the interview panel as well as doing background checks, which was a little different than we had talked about at one point.
I
You know?
I don't know. I think that was always what we had communicated, both in the application package with the releases, for the release of information to go to the sheriff's department.
Well, I mean, I just,
Initially,
communication issue then.
initially, we were going to do the random selection. I understand that council had issues with that. And then when it came back to council, the direction was for myself to create an interview panel. There wasn't any specificity given at that time. I did ask for some direction in terms of the criteria to be used, and we're following those.
So it's been a long time.
Right.
And I'm not sure at this point what the reason for a further delay is in terms of issuing these cannabis licenses, the first three. Or the first two sets of three, possibly.
I guess with anything with this process, it's been challenging for us because we've, a bit, as I've said before, we're flying and building and the airplane at the same time.
Okay.
So I acknowledge it's been a difficult and a slow process.
Could you give us just a rough idea when you think you might be ready?
Trying to get them issued by July 1st.
Okay,
So
well, great.
Okay.
We're hoping to be very close.
Well, let me move on to two other items real quick then, because I don't want, it's late, okay? Personal request from one council person. Please, let's post the availability hours for contract planners and building official availability at the counter. We continue to have people showing up at hours saying, I need to, that their situation would be facilitated by having a contract planner, or they show up, oh, well, the building official's gone today. We don't have posted hours for the availability of contract planners and building official people.
We do for the building, but not for the planning,
we
right.
we really should, we really should have posted hours so people know when to come if they want to have an interaction.
Understand. We'll either,
Okay, at the
we'll
counter.
we'll either get it covered or we'll have posted hours.
And then the other issue is, any update on the, getting the permit tracking going, online permit tracking?
Oh, there was an update on that in the status report?
Oh, I missed it then, sorry. My problem, my mistake.
Okay.
I just have one question. I had, Steve, I had a gentleman over at the house I think it was Sunday, and he lives in Port Hueneme, and he distributes marijuana in the city of Los Angeles. And he was giving me this whole information on, this thing on oils, and, there is so much about this product that we don't know about. And I think this community needs to be educated, and I don't know how we do it. So I'm bringing it up only so that no matter what we do something to educate this community on what we're doing and why we're doing it and things of that nature. And then more importantly is, we've got another decision coming before us regarding outside growing of this, of cannabis. And again, so part of that needs to be another education opportunity for the community. But this gentleman was speaking way over my head, and he had nothing to do with distributing, in fact, they didn't even call marijuana buds anymore. He had another name for it. But again, right over. But
Bud
he was
flower.
more interested, pardon?
Bud flower, I believe, is what flower, right.
Yeah,
right.
that's the new word.
And I went, oh, okay.
Right. Yeah, I've learned a lot of new words.
But more importantly he was talking about oils, and oils were a bigger, it seemed to be a bigger part of their business than actually selling buds. I wasn't sure, but I sure was confused, and I sure was concerned that we don't know enough. I don't know enough.
It's a challenging topic.
Right.
One comment on the education point, if I can.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The state, as part of adopting the budget last week, adopted a budget trailer bill, SB 94, that completely rewrote the state law on cannabis, combining together 2015's medical cannabis law with portions of Prop 64 trumping the medical laws. We are working on a memo on that for all of our cities. That should be ready, I think, next week. So we'll have that out as well as another educational tool reflecting how the state is yet again changing the rules of the airplane as we're flying it, to use the city manager's analogy.
Well, we're due to evolve our ordinance as well.
And that can be part of the process as well.
Okay.
And the real brief answer is, in the new law, they changed a lot of the rough rules, but they maintained the key piece that the League of Cities fought for, which is they maintained local control. We retained the power we had under Prop 64 to set rules as the city would desire, with the exception of city cannot ban indoor cultivation by in a private residence of up to 6 plants. That remains the same. and that was in 64. But the rest of it was maintained, which is not the original bill. So some props to the league there. Thank you.
Okay, belatedly, the mayor does have a brief report on the subject that Randy has brought up. You may know or may not know that I'm sort of the charman of Creek Road as I pick up litter for the last 4 decades. About a month ago, I had a first. I picked up some, usually it's beer cans, candy wrappers, cigarette butts, all of the fine habits of life. But for the first time, I actually picked up marijuana litter. It was a little container. What did you call that? A bud flower or flower bud? Or
Bud flower, right.
Bud flower. I said I should bring it in, to the museum as the world has changed since I was a boy. I would not have reported while the chief of police was sitting here that I'd had somebody over to my house who was delivering marijuana in Los Angeles 40 years ago. So we've become a more tolerant.
Oh, he wasn't
society.
delivering it. He was a friend of a guest.
Oh, no,
But yeah.
No, I was just saying, just the fact that we would be.
Hey, wait a second here now.
The rules have changed and people are evolving, so, okay.
May I request, Mr. Mayor, that we allow one person to speak for a minute on this issue, since we have 2 experts in the audience?
Well, it's not really on our agenda for.
But, no, he can't, but can he legally speak if?
Legally, you could take it as part of general public comment, but there's no obligation to do so. I think it's up to the mayor, and of course, it needs to be
Okay,
by
we'll
the mayor.
take it as general public comment. Come on down, Jeff.
I've been advocating a lot of education a long time. I've given over 200 lectures on cannabis and all these terminologies. I have offered and will more than willing to hold some sort of educational platform for each and every one of you to participate and outline and show you some of the terminology. And of course, the sheriff's department can assist in this, in helping you understand the technology that's developed, the understanding, the medication, and the options for people. I think it's really something you need to understand more thoroughly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Mayor Johnston, do you have any OBGMA update?
Yes, well, I don't know how much of an update it is, but we're meeting Thursday, and I believe the subcommittee over at Casitas that reviewed what we did about the Ojai flow as a solution to our representation, that their subcommittee supported it. Russ says it's going to the full board at Casitas. He and I are both going to report, both from his agency and from the city council, to OBGMA on Thursday. And if everybody,
Thanks, Mayor. Thank
high
you.
fives it, we have a letter that will go, that Ryan prepared, that'll go to the legislator.
Thank you.
Okay?
And we owe council a copy of that letter as well from the mayor. We'll make sure that
Thank
we
you.
get that out.
Okay, so we're moving on that. That's good. Okay.
That's all.
That's
I
it?
don't have- He took my time.
Okay.
agenda.
Future agenda items.
Too many.
Yeah, right.
Councilman Haney and I have had a discussion of one thing for future agenda item. Did you want to?
Well, I think the one that we talked about, if I'm correct on this, Bill, is the fact that, it takes 2 council people to actually add to an agenda. Is that what you're
Well, with the
alluding to?
VAB?
Oh, the BAB agenda, yeah. Well,
Is that we were going to,
we've asked for that discussion to come to council.
yeah, to have a clarification of the
Right.
VAB's role?
It's on my list.
Okay, that's already
July
on the list.
11.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, okay. And then the other thing, possible, and I might withdraw this request in the future, but some, put on the agenda some discussion of the CDD's protocol with respect to design review of single-family residences. And the concern is I think that Councilman Haney and I have had a concern over interpretations by by directors, which kind of creep into design review of single-family, single-story residences that are not supposed to have design review.
Oh,
It's sort of a
okay.
de
Yeah, right,
facto
right.
backdoor review, and I think that it might be worthy of discussion.
Yeah, I was going to bring up also, the idea of streamlining as part of our discussion for budgeting.
Right.
every time we do something, even, when the, when the big wheels go like this, the little wheels have to go like that. Not that the staff are little wheels, but it puts a huge burden on staff every time we come up with a new good idea. And then unfortunately, we don't go back very often and remove old good ideas or that aren't so good anymore. I would like to visit the question of why we can't transition to a 5-person commissions and boards, just like the city council, as one more way to streamline and to both save and expedite money. 5 people can make policy advice decisions, and we have some good people on the commissions where it's larger. I think they stay until such time as that there's a vacancy. And so could we put that kind of together?
Please, I would like to see that on a future agenda item as well.
So kind of the whole.
I support the mayor's sentiments on this.
We'll add that to the list.
Okay. So, good enough for tonight?
Yeah.
We haven't decided it. We're just going to talk about it. I see that look in your eyes.
Would you like to hear the other items that are currently on the list for the 11th?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
You have to depress us at the end of the night?
Well, I just, full disclosure, make sure we're all in agreement here.
How
So,
long is the list? Go.
Shorter than my arm.
Yeah, I know.
Normally, we would do the presentation on water, so I know we have a lot scheduled for the 11th. I don't know if you want to ask Mr. Spandrio to hold off on that, but that would normally be done at the first meeting of the month. Also, the commission reports. We have some, I won't mention the boilerplate things on consent, but we have an APCD and a CTAC Citizen Commission appointments. We didn't get to the second UDIN ordinance, so we wouldn't be bringing that back on the 11th. We have.
Wait, it would be on the 11th, but just the first reading.
It'd be the first reading, thank you, right. We continued the ADU public hearing, so, sorry, I was looking at my old list here and not at my new list, but, so we'd have that public hearing back. Very quick item to appoint the League of Cities Conference delegation. We have the special event permits, which is the item that was brought up in relation to the concerns with the weddings being done at the residential homes. We have that ready to go. We would have that ready to go. The City Hall space and needs assignments, space and needs analysis, the Building Appeals Board assignments. I think we determined that we could hold off on the Serzati Master Plan. I need to bring forward some management contracts for the interim CDD director. And then the leaf blower ordinance and enforcement was also requested to be on for the 11th.
Okay.
We also have a closed session for city manager evaluation. And a couple of things that I think we could hold off on, including revisions to the email retention policy and another change on the municipal code with the appeals as they go to the Building Appeals Board. So we could hold off on those unless there's a need of real urgency on part of the council.
I have a question. When is the complete streets coming back on the agenda? Because the planning commission worked very, very hard to send it to us.
Yeah, we should try to get that on quickly.
Yeah, and I would suggest postponing the water
I agree.
item.
Okay.
For sure, yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
So we can bring complete streets back.
When is it coming back?
Well,
Can-
we've got it ready to go, so we
Yeah.
can bring it back on the 11th.
I would like to
If
bring
we
it
think
back
there's
on the
time.
11th.
Yes, I would.
Yeah, I was ready to adopt it.
It might be a
'cause I-
quick, might be a
yeah,
quick
it could be
approval.
quick. Yeah, okay, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, are we ready to adjourn?
Yeah, I am. You don't wanna-
Nothing further for me.
You don't wanna Stretch this out, do you? Okay.
No, sir.
Do we have anything from the police chief?
Okay. James, you go home. Go home to your wife and family. Okay, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.